but another player.
A little bit of trivia for you, Des.
Yes, mate.
I'm wearing the same shirt as I was for that.
Oh, really? I'm not. See, I've changed. New shoes, new jeans, new everything today.
This is my SI 2020 opening day shirt. I'm not going to, I'll break the news now. I'm not going to be in floral shirts for the whole group stage. Mate. I've got some other things planned for you, but I know if I turn up on day one and I'm not in a floral shirt, there's going to be like concern about me. People are going to be asking if I'm okay.
They'll be able to change like petition online for you to get the shirts back on, mate. Go and change between maps right now. Sprint back to the hotel.
It's kind of expected from me on day one. So I thought, which shirt should I wear? And I thought, what more fitting for our very luckily third SI, Des, than to wear the one that started it all back in 2020?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at these bands that are flying through. Two coming out from NIP in the Flores and the Valkyrie, and on SANDBOX's side, they're going to be starting things off with the Nomad, which immediately screams to me they want to get out on the roam here and be problematic to NIP, because what has been the criticism towards NIP for the longest time? It's been their attacking speed. They leave things late. They let that clock run down. So if you can get them into a spot where they cannot afford to make mistakes, say 15 seconds on the clock, 10 seconds on the clock, and you can hit them on the flank, that is going to be dreamy for SANDBOX. So keep a very close eye on the flank drones coming out of the side of NIP and whether or not they can control these roamers coming out from SANDBOX.
I get a feeling that we're going to know fairly quickly what we will see from NIP throughout this game and throughout the rest of the tournament. You get the feeling that they tend to show their cards pretty quickly, generally speaking. So if they come out and have a slow start, then I start worrying for them a little bit. I think, NIP, you need to find your feet quickly and just get yourself into this one. Build some confidence nice and early and just really make a show of it.
And make a show of it they shall. It's the Six Invitational after all. If you're not going to make a show now, then when? Is the big question. We're going to start out on the top floor. Now, Tim, you are a very positive man who is always happy and piling praise on everyone.
Positively dislike this site.
I was about to say, you positively dislike this site to a great degree. Tell me about that. Why?
It's not that I dislike it, right? So one thing to very importantly say is when I talk about this top floor site, it's often in relation to EUL, and the reason that I talk about it is because the win percentage for defenders up on the top floor of Kafe is not great. What I will say, if there is a region in the world that had a decent defensive win rate up on the top floor, it was APAC. We did see them have success up here. So I'm gonna meter my concern and say that SANDBOX, I'm okay with you going to the top floor, but if you lose it in this first round, don't just keep forcing it back there. There are other very good sites on Kafe.
Heavy looking for a cheeky little early peek there out of the window, trying to find someone coming up on that north side spawn, but no one running out that side of the wall. Pino instead sat on a drone, playing it nice and slow, whilst the rest of his team scale up towards this northwest corner. On Kafe, you often want to get yourself on the roof, regardless of site that you're attacking, because top-down clears are incredibly common. So you will see members getting up onto the top floor, opening both of these hatches, and then looking to clear out the west side of the top floor and push their way through. So Cigar Shop, Piano, as wonderfully shown by Easy, our observer today, is where you want to put your focus. Interesting, they've reinforced off entirely, by the way, bathroom into storage upstairs. Rather than a rotation there that you would normally see, it has been, in fact, I'm a liar. No, I'm not. It is reinforced off. I was going to say, I saw a rotation. I was like, I definitely saw that reinforced. But both are locked off here. So the player in bathroom has to be very careful because he can get pinned in if someone goes on the white window on the south side of the map.
That's it. Envy Taylor's really got no escape from where he is. If it gets blocked off by NIP, there's no alternative. So it's something that NIP may identify, they may choose to try and exploit, but for the time being, we've got Psycho underneath, and what a wonderful opener for us on the Airstream. And then in comes Muzi, the human Uzi, with the kill onto Envy Taylor to clear out that pixel spot. NIP immediately coming in with an explosive start, Des, halfway in the round, 5 versus 3, 2 big openers. It already looks like it's going to be a difficult day for SANDBOX.
A little bit too easy as well to get those opening two. Now playing at a massive disadvantage. Pino's looking for another one. They know there's someone lurking around here by Lumber. Nova taken down about 20 to 25 HP. Gets his way back inside of storage. He's still got Muzi on that window. Wants to line the shot up and land himself a dreamy headshot, but has got to be so careful because we've already seen NIP get 2 big kills. Down to that final 60-second mark, though, and knowing they're in a 5 versus 3 is where they've got to step up, because NIP are now very short on drones as well. I'll give that to SANDBOX. They've done a great job of chewing through the information game.
It's always the clock that is the question for NIP, but as you say, NIP have used that information game fantastically well whilst they've had it, and I think it will have likely given them enough of an advantage. They've got themselves established inside a cigar now. Muzi's looking to push himself inside a site. Kamikaze is with him, I believe, with the diffuser, so it's then time to start thinking about how do you push in, how do you secure that plant spot. For the time being, Harper still roaming around from Lumber, manages to get himself back up to white.
No way.
NIP are unaware of this. It could be damaging, but they knew. Muzi, I threw his old nickname out at the beginning of the round, and he proves exactly why I did it. I can just feel there's a big tournament coming from him. He finishes things off at the end. It was a big round, and NIP looking solid on that top floor attack.
A 3K for Muzi in that round as well. 1 from the window, 2 on the push through. And again, I'll give it to SANDBOX. I thought they moved relatively well, just lost those critical gunfights against members of NIP, where maybe they're used to being able to win those back in APAC. It's a completely different story here on the international stage. But with top floor done and dusted, we now head down into Reading and Fireplace. What I'm looking for here is for SANDBOX to find something on the board, because yes, on that first one, you got absolutely slammed. It's time to drop away. If they go through all 3 sites, so looking towards top floor, looking towards Reading, and then in towards Kitchen, and you've lost all 3, you're really starting to scrap for ideas there to get it back into the game.
You're not just scrapping for ideas. I think you start panicking at that point, because you know that you've got an NIP defensive side to play into that are going to just really dictate and dominate things on this map as well. So as you say, important that SANDBOX get themselves running as quickly as possible, realistically. Now, coming into round 2, nothing's done with, I don't want to be talking in terms like NIP are already tearing away with this one. They're not. The couple of concerns that I've got from that round 1, Des, particularly is that opener from Psycho. That was far too easy. NIP just identifying that open hatch, the man above it, Psycho. I think I can get underneath that. Yep, absolutely free. And that is the problem. SANDBOX cannot give away cheap kills like that. They need to keep on top of the drones. Still 9 left alive after the prep phase for NIP here. If they can use that, it's going to be dangerous.
Obviously, got to consider there's the Twitch on side who takes 1 drone off you to give you 2 of the other drones. So still got all their drones left alive in this case. But again, for me, it's if they wear that down, how many men do they have left alive? Because SANDBOX bled out those 2 members incredibly quickly. Here, at least, they have more of the map to play with. You're not just sat up on the top floor, you're of course sat defending on the 2nd floor. So there's a bit more space to play with here. The ability to fall away through hatches. You're probably not going to find Pino getting underneath any hatches this time round, although we have got 2 open on the top floor already. So SANDBOX are ready for that fallback when it needs to come.
Step 1 for NIP here is going to be that top floor clearance. The drone's going in just to try and locate exactly where the defenders are playing. Static quite aggressively there underneath the skylight, just playing right up in the faces of NIP for the time being. But there's fights that are going to need to be won, because we know that NIP are not going to let these players sit in and around these locations. Nitro comes out from White Stairs, will be unsuccessful. Pino with the nade going in, catches his man, doesn't manage to find the kill, but there is now damage done to both Envy Taylor and Shyol there. NIP looking to get themselves established still.
I can't believe how much more aggressively they're playing here as well, like playing up inside a cigar, looking to challenge up White still. Compared to last round, it's exactly the same sort of defense, also an awareness of what Pino did last time round, but bear in mind again, we're defending downstairs. Most teams will sit players inside a cocktail, they'll hard reinforce off storage walls and just sit on the east side and drop away when the pressure starts to build up. So a very different tactic coming out here from SANDBOX, one that is very aggressive to what we're used to seeing. It hasn't paid any dividends yet, but they are chewing through those drones. 5 going down already, and this time round, they haven't lost anyone.
No, they haven't. I'm not sure that NIP have directly got an answer, but as the pressure mounts, Static's going to drop out, and that is unfortunate. Pino is alert to that danger as Envy Taylor throws himself headlong out of the window, but finds nothing but a hail of bullets coming in from Pino, who picks up that entry. It doesn't necessarily open things up too much, but what it does do is give NIP that top floor control, Des. Pino on the sledge can think about getting inside of the map now, starting to open up those vertical angles, and this is where the pressure is going to mount on SANDBOX. But in a 5 versus 4 with 30 seconds left, they could hold on.
Well, you say that, they've now lost 2. Yes, it's running down. We said about NIP speed being a problem at points, but they found 2 kills. They can play for trades here if they want and get the closeout. You got Shyle sat here at the top of White Stairs or the midpoint, but Psycho's gone down to Harper with the shotgun. A 4 versus 3, the vertical angles are there. Another one falls down to Harper's shotgun. Shyle gets another at 3 versus 2, and NIP need to go now, but they've left it a bit too late. They find one more, a 2 versus 2 and 1 second to play. They're going to find nothing in this round, and SANDBOX win by the clock.
Too slow from NIP. They had the control that they needed. They got the verticals, but it took them 2.5 minutes to get there, and there was just too much work to be done. As I said, even at 5v3, the kill came in. As I was saying it, SANDBOX could hold on in that situation because NIP didn't have time to soften them up with those vertical angles. Really, you want about a minute left on the clock. You want about double what NIP had to work with so that you've got that 30 to 40 seconds to open up all the verticals that you want. The primary focus when opening up those vertical angles is moving the defenders. You're not necessarily looking to find kills. If you do, it's a bonus, but what you want to do is you want to move them out of those critical areas so that you can get that payload into sight, you can get the diffuser in there, get it down on the ground and do it safely, and NIP just didn't have time to set that up. So what are you left with? Hatch drops, balcony drops, just trying to find kills.
Well, for NIP, it's a return to comfort. We go back up into bar and cocktail. SANDBOX wanting another bash, at the site we saw in round 1. They failed quite spectacularly to defend. I believe there were 4 left alive for NIP and a 3K for Muzi on the board. Tells you all you need to know about how that one played out. This time round, a small bit of difference in their setup, because I was going to say they're going for the exact same setup again, but no. Here they've reinforced off one and left the other soft. They may choose to reinforce it off, but yeah, they are again. So they've done this a couple of rounds where they've opened and rotate and used it to get the setup done quicker and then reinforce the wall off afterwards. And I don't know if that's because they're scared about the angle coming in from bar. If someone pushes in, it means the player in bathroom can be a little more secure from the north. But the problem with bathroom, like we've already said, is it's so pokey. You get someone on that south window, get a Thatcher there and someone with a nade, for example, the player inside the bathroom is going to be dead in no time at all.
Headed into round number 3 then, we have got a little bit of aggression here, and I love to see it, Des. I love to see it. We've got Static just waiting underneath the hatch, I think it is. He's just looking to see if he can find himself a nitro. Now then,
easy.
There it is. Look at the timing. Look at the understanding of that ebb and flow of the game. Kamikaze goes in, breaches the first hatch. He's coming to the second. There you go. Kiss, kiss, bang, bang, and that is a freebie to kick them off.
Kiss, kiss, bang, bang. Very good. I think the thing is, when someone opens the first hatch, they're not going to pause and get on drone and wait before opening the second. No.
They will now.
They will now. They want to get it opened up for their team so they can get focused on the other hatch whilst you're droning in through the first. So with that read coming out from Static, a very good first kill coming in. He sat with the shotgun inside a cigar shop. It was from below where he died here last time. We'll see if he's a bit smarter about it this time round.
The other big problem there, potentially, from NIP is that Kamikaze is using the soft breach on Ace to open those hatches. Now, that's lost them their hard breach option here, which can be important on the top floor to clear out. But Pino is on the sledge, not opening the hatches. I understand that he's elsewhere doing other work, but by having Kamikaze go and open those hatches, it's a big risk for him. They've lost the hard breach. We'll see if that hinders them later in the round.
It's unfortunate, really. Static taking so much damage from a nade meant one bullet from Psycho was enough to put him in the dirt. Psycho did eat a full shotgun blast in the process, mind you, so it isn't super healthy. But hey, you'll take a dead man and one alive for your side any day of the week. They've still got 1 frag grenade left to play with here as well on Pino, which he's been committing on normally the south windows pretty consistently, looking towards forcing the player out. Here this time it's on the east side of things, and he read the jump out last time really, really well, and he's going to find Shyle for himself as well. He's having a phenomenal game on this sledge so far.
They're playing really well on the east windows or NIP here. We usually see all the focus coming in through Piano, but they're actually showing us that you can utilise both sides of Kafe as a map. Muzi, he's managed to get himself established in the bar here. He's going to see if he can just peek his way into this bar back storage and find himself a kill in a second, and you'd have to put your money on Muzi. Look at the angle that he's got there. As soon as the smoke moves back for the challenge, it's likely that he loses his life, but the smoke can wait. No, he can't, as Muzi decides to take the swing, take the peek, nearly finds himself a second at the top of White Stairs. Muzi's on the hunt. He's looking for his man. can, but time is ticking down, and he knows he needs to get that diffuser on the ground. That's exactly what he's going to do. Just inside a cocktail, the cover is in place. There's little that Harper can do about this. He has to just edge his way forward carefully, try and find that first of 3 kills that he's going to need. He's being pressured from all angles though, Des. It's going to be Pino that finds him, and it's going to be NIP locking down the top floor again.
The fact that Muzi managed to get into that position where he takes over bar and then storage is crazy. Storage is like the whole center of your universe when you're on defense of that top floor. You've got a shield in there, you can see into piano. Normally it would also support the bathroom player, but we've already spoke about those reinforcements a few times. Either way, it is the center point of the top floor. You need to have that control on side. And the fact that he got inside there when there were still 3 left alive just shows where the hole started to open up in SANDBOX's defenses once Pino got that kill onto Shyle from the east window. So another good round coming out from NIP, and no surprise at all. SANDBOX are not going to try bar and cocktail again. They're going to step down into kitchen and service on the ground floor.
The thing is, I commented on it, obviously, Kamikaze losing his life at the beginning there, I think just contributed to that change in approach from NIP. They didn't have the hard breach, so they had no way to breach the bathroom wall in Piano, they had no way to breach that bar back storage wall in Piano, and we saw them do that in the previous time that they attacked that top floor. So without that hard breach, let's think on our feet, let's mix things up a bit, let's get in through the east side instead, where we don't need that hard breach, where it's not really going to gain us anything. Let's just get in there, get some kills and get the diffuser down. And that's something that NIP do very well. They manage to adapt, they manage to evolve depending what's happening in the round.
Let's think about what we said about this key man earlier on, by the way, MV Taylor. We said before we got into map, you know, generally when SANDBOX lose, it's because MV isn't performing super well. Not to say they are a one-man team, but he is a very pivotal point of their round wins. It's just how things play out. He's currently sat at 0-3. We've seen the Wamai Magnets have a little bit of impact here and there. For example, slightly prolonging Static's life on the mute in the previous round inside a cigar shop. But outside of that, MV just hasn't really been present yet. We need to see him getting more into this game. Really, we've only seen Harper and Charles having an impact to date, and it's just showing again the difference when you're playing against a defending world champion versus when SANDBOX are playing against APAC teams. Not forgetting, they went 7-0 in Stage 3 in APAC North.
That's the big difference. You know, sometimes in APAC North, it's a league where SANDBOX might get away with mistakes, whereas this really isn't that sort of situation. No. Those mistakes are going to be punished, and you know, you might think, well, we're only in day 1, Des, this is the beginning of the tournament. Well, welcome to big school, because that is the situation you are in now. You're at the Six Invitational 2022, the biggest tournament with the best teams in the world, and they will punish from minute 1 any mistakes that you make.
Nova doesn't know that he's currently being caught out by Psycho's drone from behind. He got the one in front of him, and here comes Psycho on the hunt. He's going to find him blind as well. Will he win this gunfight? Yes, he will. It is all too easy for NIP here. Drone the man out, moving on him, shut him down before he can do anything. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Now Static on the DMR is under pressure inside of VIP, taken out by Pino. It's ticking over like clockwork for NIP here, and SANDBOX looking as lost as ever.
They look scary at the minute, Des. They really are taking control of things here. Harper tried to make a challenge. For me, SANDBOX look a little bit off the pace as well, Des. I've got to be honest. Harper's challenge there, crosshair a little bit high, just opens himself up, exposes himself in court check, and just causes himself a problem. MV Taylor entrenched in on the red stairs now. He's droned. They know where he is. His days are numbered surely here, because he knows what's going to come next. It's going to be the push from NIP. SANDBOX, for the time being, MV Taylor, he's just holding his angle. He's just biding his time here. He's going to at least force them to do some work to move him. Muzi, he's just going to hold him in place potentially here so that they can build around and look at how do they push into sight, because there's 2 left. They know MV Taylor's on red, so they know that there's 1 man all alone inside a kitchen.
What I love is they aren't panicking either. They aren't saying, right, yeah, we're not even panicking, but getting overconfident and saying, oh, 5 versus 2, we can win this one, boys. They've had someone, I think it was Kamikaze, on drones for the good last 20, 30 seconds or so. Things are looking fantastic for them right now. They've got themselves pushing inside a prep, upside on towards VIP. All the numbers are in their favour, but MV finds a big 2K. They forgot about the main man. We spoke about him. Charlotte another, but it's a 1 versus 2 as Pino finds 1. Kamikaze the last. I thought for a second we were seeing the SANDBOX duo come back to life.
It was a valiant effort at the end there, particularly from MV Taylor, to break himself out of what could have been a difficult prison. He was on red stairs. He had Muzi holding him from court check. It was never going to be easy to move out of there, but he manages to find himself 2, and it really really opens the round up for SANDBOX towards the end of things there. But this is the problem when you're up against a team like NIP, Des. They've got their kills, but Pino's still left on the board. Yeah. Kamikaze's still left on the board. You're not going up against easy players to challenge. Pino managing to then just get himself inside his sight, and at that point, the damage was really done.
We had a good chat yesterday about this team and said, what are we looking at when we're talking about NIP? And we said about Psycho, hit and miss across competitions, whether it's in-stage, majors, whatever. If he turns up and is playing, he is terrifying. And so far this game, he's been hitting some big kills. I've already spoken about Pino a couple of times. He has been phenomenal on this window playing Sledge, just watching for angles and cuts, getting nades in the mix as well. He's been an absolute nightmare, frankly. But against Psycho and Muzi, really getting themselves involved. And Julio and Kamikaze are doing the right thing. They aren't saying, I need to get in the mix here and get some kills as well. They're happily playing that more supportive role of getting drones in, letting the team know what's going on, and letting the three that are popping off just do what they do best. It's
looking easy for NIP at times in some of these gunfights, and that for me is what SANDBOX need to change here. Yes, strategically there are things that they can do. They're giving away their lives a little bit too easily sometimes. I think in some ways, they're trying to maybe play a little bit sort of too high a line. They're playing right into the faces of NIP. That opening kill, Psycho barely had to come into the building. He just comes in through main door, court check, opening kill, done. And so for me, I think you're just maybe a little bit high there, SANDBOX, against the team that are dominating you on the entry.
They've gone for the same setup again, and I don't want to say it's all down to this, but I spoke to Emmy Taylor the other day, and he did say to me, since our coach, OCN, or Oni-chan as he was called back in the day, since we lost him in November, I think it was November 15th, he left the team. He retired, in fact, has completely gone out of esports at this point. They said, things haven't really been the same since then. We are preparing hard, but the way he said it just made me think that it's not so much a defeated mentality, but they know things aren't super squeaky clean right now is the fear.
Harper is just playing underneath that red stairs hatch. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to be looking for. He's got the nitro in hand. I think they fancy themselves a nice little freebie opener. They're not going to get away with it this time. As I say, NIP, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They're not going to be fooled twice by SANDBOX here and lose to that nitro coming up through the hatch. So Pino, he's got himself established on the windows again. We've seen him do some great window work so far with those nades, holding angles, making it difficult for SANDBOX to rotate around in this top floor.
Cheeky little love tap from Muzi onto Envy there, by the way. Busted him out with the Twitcher, and I imagine a little jump up and look through the window to see what was going on. Realised there was nothing to kill, so shot the player instead. Why not? It's 5 HP deducted. You've got Nova playing downstairs, it's worth mentioning as well. No doubt giving some support with those yokai drones from inside of Train, just to make sure that those that are playing up here looking towards MB, Static for example, are a little bit more comfortable.
That's it, and it's something that NIP need to be aware of. They need to go down, find the Echo and deal with him, because otherwise we know that NIP are a team that like to leave things to the last 20 seconds for their execute, and if there is a Echo still left on the board with yokai drones, it's likely to be the last late attempt that you make, because Echo is going to deal with it. Right now, it does look like they're aware. There's one man, I think it was Pino potentially, pushing underneath. No, it's Psycho actually, just over on the far side, looking to push from underneath and just make an impact there. Now then, we're going to have the opening kill. Envy Taylor manages to find Muzi. 5 versus 4, but leveled out very quickly as Pino does find the Ella of Static. Psycho, as I say, still on the hunt for that Echo. Is he going to find his man? Time will tell.
Possibly so. I mean, for NIP, it doesn't matter that SANDBOX walked out with the opener. Envy the one collecting it. They've still found 2 kills back the other way. Nova does get one back onto Pino, and finally, his 8-0 kill spree has been shut down. Charlotte another one on White, and it looks like finally SANDBOX are going to find themselves another round win, albeit back on the same site where they found the prior win before. A 4-2 half then, therefore, starts to feel quite likely. Julio with no time left in a 1 versus 3. This round is done and dusted, but again, I'm looking towards round 6 already and thinking, can SANDBOX find a third, or is this going to be a 4-2 shutout for NIP?
At the moment, you would probably hedge your bets towards the 4-2 shutout for NIP. SANDBOX unable to find a win top or bottom floor as of yet. We will see where they choose to take this last stand on the defence. For any sort of newer viewers, we play 6 rounds and 6 rounds, if you will. So 6 rounds on defence for SANDBOX and then 6 rounds on the attack, giving us 12 in total. If we end up 6 apiece at the end of that, then obviously a winner will be decided in overtime. So, we found ourselves 3-2.
Yes.
NIP, honestly, I feel like it could be 4-1 or even 5-0 at the minute. SANDBOX have had a couple of good rounds on reading, but they still, for me, look a little bit off the pace.
Let's touch again on the op bans for a second, because we mentioned the Nomad ban and said this is SANDBOX's time. They banned away the Nomad. Hitting him on the flank is going to be the big play. And sure, we've seen a couple of cheeky kills coming out from stairways and stuff, but I'm not seeing the big flanking roam game that I thought we'd see coming out of SANDBOX, because mainly NIP have been shutting their members down so early in the round. And the last thing to probably do when you're in a 3 versus 5 is say, Hail Mary, let's just go for a flank and see what we can achieve. You want to try and play more on site together, be a little bit more static, excuse the pun. Hasn't really worked out for them so far. I'm really keen to see, though, how the second half goes, because SANDBOX have leaned on Flores nearly every single attacking round they've had, occasionally dropping it out for a Jackal on this map, so it is going to transform their attacks entirely. So for NIP, that could have been a really smart read, but first, let's get ourselves through this kitchen defense.
NIP certainly going to be looking to take an advantage. You know, the one way we've got to look at this, Des, if SANDBOX can get this kitchen defence locked down, coming away with 3-3 after the first half that they've had is an absolute steal, to be honest. Envy Taylor, he really wants this, doesn't he? He's waiting, but he's not going to find his man as Pino just comes up through an alternative direction, takes a couple of seconds longer than Envy Taylor was willing to wait, and manages to avoid any danger from those windows. Now, immediately opening up that VIP window, he's not going to apply any direct pressure from it at the moment as Pino heads up to the top floor to open the hatches. Envy Taylor is up there to be cleared out now. Needs to be careful because that white stairs window is just being watched. He's trying to be mobile, but you can see the discomfort here from Envy Taylor. He knows he's got multiple angles to watch, and this didn't work out too well for him last time when he tried to go for the jump out. It was Pino that time who shut him down, but my money would be on Psycho if he tries it again.
If being the big one there, I think, and he already knows the pressure's starting to build up around him, right? There's all these windows being smashed out. There's sometimes a player on the windows, there's sometimes it's not. What I've often called phantom pressure, where you don't know if a player is there or not, so you can't afford to sit there and think, well, maybe he's gone, maybe he's not. You just don't know, so you've got to assume someone is there. It just restricts the defenders a little bit more, which is why you saw Pino smash that window out and get straight up onto the roof. They're working their way down these white stairs slowly, just trying to force away these roamers. We're about 90 seconds into the round, and SANDBOX have been forced down onto the ground floor, so I'd wager this is okay time being made by NIP. Still haven't got full control, mind you. We've really got to start seeing these floors getting opened up. But Sledge inside a train doing just that. So the 1:30 is kind of the benchmark that I operate to. If a team is getting it opened at 1:30, they've made good time in clearing out the roamers, so no complaints here.
And you've, of course, you know, you've got to put the NIP factor on that, so we've got to give them an extra 10 seconds, Des, because, you know, we know that they like to take their time, so, you know, you got to give them a little bit of wiggle room. As you say, those verticals just being opened up. Nova could find himself in danger here. Throws out the Nitro. It's 4 throws. It just dips low, misses the ceiling, and it's going to land on that wall. Whether the blast radius would be sufficient or not, I doubt it would be. Now then, we're going to have Pino downed. He's going to be picked up back onto 20 health. NIP have the verticals there, but they're not really finding too much success from them at the moment. Envy Taylor's been able to move back up red, and on a flank, this could be really dangerous.
It's taken 6 rounds, but we are finally seeing a flank that could potentially do some real damage, but Envy's just a bit nervous here. Again, that 25-second mark, this is what I thought we might see in the pre-game.
Time to
get
go
towards
now,
these late stages where it's slow, and then he makes his move. They know he's here, but they don't land the shots. They land 1 or 2, but it's not enough for Psycho. Envy has found 1, and now NIP will be panicking. What if he comes behind us? What if he does more damage? Shyle finds another. It's Muzi coming down white stairs, and I feel they've left it all a bit too late. It's a 4 versus 1. SANDBOX with 5 seconds to play, get the last kill, and then we'll find the 3-3 half. The NIP effect of being a little bit slow, creeping in there at the end.
They just seem to lose direction for me, Des. They got the mid-floor control and sort of went, what now? What do we do with it now? They just never really seem to get any dividends out of that work that they'd put in early. Got the top floor, docked the mid floor, started opening it up, and then SANDBOX were just super comfortable.
The thing is, despite those weaknesses in NIP's attack, they still found 3 rounds just through the raw fragging ability they had. Now they've gone to the defensive side, where historically we have seen NIP be a lot stronger against the SANDBOX that often look a little bit lost on the attack, and on this map especially, they're without their crutch operator. They lean again on Flores in the vast majority of their rounds. I'd probably wager, looking down the stats here, it's about 80% of their rounds they will play a Flores. Without that on side, this is going to transform again how they play things. Their current lean, with a thinker on side as they've always employed before, is going to be be Shyle stepping across onto the Twitch. That's their difference maker. What impact it has is going to be the next big question, because they've got to play into a very interesting setup here coming out of NIP. It's one of my go-to favorites. If you see a castle, you're almost guaranteed to see it. It's going to be likely a cigar shop hold coming out in some form, with Psycho being a bit of a troublemaker on that vigil, given the Nomad is banned away.
And the way he's been playing today so far, you can see 6 kills in that opening half. He could well prove to be a real nuisance here if given the opportunity. For the time being, the castle barricades getting deployed. Always fascinating to see exactly where they go. I would expect to see Piano double door castled off. They've taken the opportunity. Castle, of course, now having 4 barricades, so taken the opportunity to get that white corridor window as well, which is going to suggest a player inside of bathroom, because they're trying to keep them safe.
And they've done the 2 east windows as well. 1 in Cocktail, 1 up on the new balcony. So they are looking to keep that east side as closed off as they can. That should force your Sledge player to play over there, and on the south side, you're already likely going to see your Sledge player down there. Indeed, it is Envy getting that one knocked off already. Again, that pressure now exists of what if there is someone on that window, and NIP should be all too aware of that, given it was Pino playing on that window for the vast majority of the first half of this map. They've got their hatches opened up, no C4s being thrown through them just yet, Ace, but Envy's already getting a bit of a jiggle on here, getting himself through a number of hatches and doorways and windows, you name it. Now it's trying to clear out the utility that might be blocking them inside a cigar shop.
The real danger for SANDBOX here, for my mind, from NIP, is going to be if SANDBOX lose the first man or 2. If they take those opening deaths, what you're going to see is NIP just completely shut up shop and just manage the rest of the round. Out goes the nade through the drone hole. It's a cheeky one. It's going to do a tickle of damage to Kamikaze, but not enough to make him move, I wouldn't expect. I think we just hear a Toxic Babe canister being deployed as well to try and slow things down. Psycho, he's on the hunt. He's playing the vigil. They might not know exactly where he is. He's moving his way back up the red stairs to try and support Kamikaze a little bit, I think, who's just trying to hold them away from that hatch drop, but it's very early in the round to have 2 of those smoke canisters used already.
Kamikaze is out of there. Got the support of Psycho, so no one's playing on red stairs and knows that he can get away with it. It does cede top red control here to the attackers of SANDBOX. They've got Cigar Shop, they've got top red, but it's now potentially about Kamikaze and Psycho from below who can cause some trouble. But Shyle gets the shutdown, wins the 1v1, and walks away with a kill to his name, albeit only about 50 HP left on side. He's going to rotate over towards white, and there is a man waiting on the stairs here. Going to find a freebie. Shyle not expected to find the dropped away smoke, sat in that position.
Kamikaze, that was an important trade there to keep things level. The last thing they want is to be losing the smoke at that point. He has, I think, just got, 1 Toxic Babe canister left, so it can still be of big use in shutting down the final push here from SANDBOX. But 4 versus 4, 45 seconds left to go, and SANDBOX just need to get themselves moving a little bit. They haven't really taken any piano control. It's all focused around Cigar Shop at the minute now. Interestingly, Envy Taylor's going in here. Desi's gone up on the east balcony. They're not aware of him. He manages to find the castle. Can he find the second number? Yes, he can. What a push from Envy Taylor right into the heart of NIP, and he's joined by Harper. It's all down to this man, Julio. We've seen him do it before. Can he do it again? 1 versus 2. Now 1 versus 1. 15 seconds. He knows where the man's coming, but Envy Taylor wins the gunfight in the 1v1. What a round from him. What a round from SANDBOX, and that is going to be them taking the lead.
What have we now said? This will be the 3rd time I say it. When Envy shows up, the team tends to do well. Massive round coming in from the captain there. We saw him at the round start, zipping all over the outside of the building like Spider-Man, getting those windows opened up, hatches opened up, and then has a massive impact coming in on the east side later into the round. Got to give some credit out to Harper as well. At the same time Envy made that play, Harper was coming in from piano and found himself a killing from the west as well. So it wasn't just a one-man effort. There was distraction being ran all around the map by his team. Really good stuff from SANDBOX, and didn't expect that to come out in their first attacking round.
If you remember back to the beginning of this one, we said if SANDBOX were going to get anything out of this best-of-3 series against NIP, they needed to win Kafe. Now then, Des, if we also remember what I said at the beginning of this game, it was top floor is not a good defensive side on Kafe. Please stop making it your first choice.
How many times have defenders won it, Ace?
0, Des.
Fantastic.
Out of 3 attempts. It has not yet been successfully defended. Please stop choosing it as the first site. This time we're going to go down to Kitchen as NIP's second choice. So SANDBOX, we're likely going to see them go for that top floor clearance down. Something that NIP did in about 1 minute 40. They were opening up the floors. See if SANDBOX can do it a little bit quicker, but more than anything, let's see if SANDBOX can make better use of those verticals. NIP never really got anything out of it.
This is interesting because NIP aren't looking to make use of the maps. Even with the Nomad being banned away here, they're saying, look, we're still going to play on site. We're going to play pretty turtle. The only member you can look at on the side that you would look at as a roamer, probably going to be Muzi on the Wamai. But with the changes that he got, he keeps on getting his magnet disc through until the final 30 seconds. So the longer he's alive, the more value that he adds. Realistically, in the final 30 seconds, most explosives would have already been used, so it's not a massive deal, which is why you can use him as a roamer if you like, but naturally, the longer he's alive, the more value that he adds.
SANDBOX then, just looking to get themselves inside of the map, and what a way Static's going to do it. He's going to find that nice nade kill as an opener onto Kamikaze, and as you say, Des, that is your smoke gone. Could be a big loss. 3 toxic babe canisters going with him. It is a big loss of utility for NIP in the very beginning of the round. The other thing that it's going to do, Des, is it's likely going to make it much easier for SANDBOX to get that map control, because there will come a point now where NIP have to decide to move somebody downstairs to replace Kamikaze in his defensive position, so it could well likely pull them off the roam sooner than they might like.
It's a bit interesting to see the clash sat on site and the smoke out by himself. Essentially, thought you'd see them as a pairing out there towards restaurant and then fall back as a collective. All these players, all the operators have got reason to stay on site, essentially. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, maybe a little bit more of a pairing with Julio would have been the play at the start of that initial aggressive hold out towards the restaurant side. Now we're starting to see that hammer being swung up on the top floor in good time by none other than Envy himself once again. Once they've got this vertical control in, this will be the big difference maker between the two teams. NIP, if you recall, really stalled out once they had this vertical control. They lost a man trying to push down red and didn't know where to go from there. For SANDBOX, you hope they've got a bit more of an idea behind them, and I'd wager with all 5 left alive, that's exactly what they have.
There you go, starting to apply better pressure than NIP did on the vertical. Psycho taking a lot of damage inside of sight on the warden there. Julio, you can see at this point, Des, he's just backed himself into a corner. He's on the clash and he's decided that's enough. I'm just going to try and keep myself alive for that final 20 seconds to try and impact on any potential plant attempt. He's got himself at full health. He's certainly in a position to do that, but will SANDBOX give him the opportunity? Nades coming out to try and clear the bottom of white stairs here. SANDBOX are trying to work towards a freezer drop, but they've also got men moving in from the bakery side. They've got NIP surrounded. Psycho found out, shut down and put on the deck. He's going to be killed out. It's 5 versus 3 as another kill reigns in. Julio down. Nova able to plant. It's all falling apart for NIP, Des. They look rattled.
Absolutely destroyed by SANDBOX, who have executed in much better time, got a plant down, and got a flawless round. We said, let's see how the difference shapes up. They came pushing in from Bakery. They had the drop coming through Freezer. They completely cleared NIP out. We are seeing, at least in these 2 rounds, the exact opposite of what I expected to see.
We're going to see a tactical pause coming in, I believe, at this point. I would make a good guess that it will be from the side of NIP, if I had to make a guess. We have seen the last 4 rounds now go to SANDBOX Gaming, and I tell you what, Des, they really are setting things, you know, on a little bit of a path towards chaos here, you know, coming in, potentially upsetting the world champions in the very first match. I just want to see surprises over the group stages, and this is really turning up at the minute.
Again, we touched on it in the pre-game again about the whole map ban, and we were like, is this not reverse? Surely NIP pick Club and SANDBOX pick Kafe. That makes the most sense, but knowing that NIP have kind of come into this map, probably saying, look, we've seen what they've done over their 8-win streak they've currently got on this map. They pick Flores a lot. We ban that away. Their attacks surely will falter as they've looked a bit weak on other maps. But again, remembering, this is one of their favorite maps. Whether they've got their favorite operator or not, they are still incredibly comfortable. Strats don't change all that much. You've just got a couple more hurdles to get over in the form of things like shields or gadgets that you can't clear as easily with Flores drones. As it stands, SANDBOX are looking pretty prolific. And we came into today thinking this looks like the most clear-cut game, defending world champions against struggling APAC side. You might even say it's first or second seed coming up against 16th. SANDBOX are taking it to them.
They really are, and you love to see it. That's what we come to the Invitational for. You know, as much as I've said, yeah, well, you know, you're here now, you're with the big boys, every team here can compete. That is as true of SANDBOX as it is of NIP. Everybody is here on merit, everybody is here to win, and right now SANDBOX are doing fantastically well. They are going to be looking to just stretch this one and get themselves. This round is very important now. It's usually about the 8th or 9th round that we start seeing those pivotal rounds, and I think this is going to be one of them. If SANDBOX can take a win here and get themselves reading room locked down on the attack, they go 6-3 match point, and I can't see NIP turning it round from there.
They've got every single player running around upstairs at the minute, minus Julio. They're going for a full-on setup upstairs. They're double reinforcing off Piano. They've got mutes down inside a cigar shop. They're going to castle off cigar shop. I said that SANDBOX had a really aggressive defense when they're defending reading the previous time. NIP are going for essentially a full top 4 setup here in terms of their hold. It's very bold, and there's a team that's kind of on the back foot. You have two choices, right? Either you pull it back and go more defensive. Not a good idea. We saw how that worked out for them on the kitchen. They got flawless rounded by the side of SANDBOX. Or you go even more aggressive and say, right, rely on the gun skill. It feels like they've gone for the second here. Go really aggressive. Get up in the faces of SANDBOX early in the round and try and disrupt them. Because SANDBOX's successes have come in the execute in the late stages of the round. Disrupt them early on, get 1 or 2 kills, try and shut them out, deny information away with the mute and the mozzie, and maybe that's the play that gets you success.
And that's what we saw them have success with at the beginning, if you remember. I said that SANDBOX were struggling inside of the gunfights, and they'd been able to, NIP just able to walk in and find kills, but no, Des, not now, because Shaol's woken up, SANDBOX have woken up, and right now they are starting to absolutely dismantle the reigning world champions.
They are going to be a little bit seething with Julio, because his job was to watch White Stairs. He lets him run up, gets juiced up by the Finker, and finds 2 kills again, dismantling the vast majority of this top floor defense. NIP looking a bit thin on the ground. It's a 4 versus 3, so they did get the trade back, but the damage has been done.
Static's just going to hold that angle, and this is the thing now. SANDBOX have got a serious man advantage. It's 4 versus 3. They've got that extra man, so they can leave somebody to hold an angle. If they know they've got somebody up on top floor, they can leave Static to just hold and make sure that they can't come over the balcony and punish them. Harper's going to find Pino, and once again, it's advantage SANDBOX. Kamikaze manages to do something, finds the man that's holding the angle. He was holding it onto the wrong side for where Kamikaze pushed from. So NIP still keeping themselves alive in this one, but as you say, it's maybe up to Julio to try and turn this one around. As
that rotate didn't look fully open, I was like, hang on a minute, is he a little bit stuck inside of him here? And Kamikaze might be a case of Julio to get that shotgun out and blast it open again on the rotate in towards utility. He's a bit pending on White here as well. Do they know? Look behind, they know now where he is. It was, of course, the Iana decoy. That catches us out sometimes as well. It's not just the players all the time. Julio now hanging on this door again. He's already swung once and found himself a kill. Can he do it a second time? Whereas Kamikaze is quite literally living up to his name. He's going nuclear on the top floor, finds Envy, and it's a 2 versus 2 with 33 seconds to play.
Huge moment from Kamikaze there. Takes the rotate up the White Stairs, shuts down Envy Taylor, and all of a sudden there is no more vertical pressure. They can just focus on sight, but somehow SANDBOX, they've got themselves in established. There's an opportunity for potentially for Nova to get this diffuser down. That's what he was thinking about, but no, he hears the movement. He goes to the challenge, he finds the man. It's 1v1. It's Kamikaze with a 3K, and he pulls NIP kicking and screaming back into this one.
That was such a, I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me, because he dropped down into utility and I was like, he can't get through the rotate, he is screwed. So what does he do? He can sit and kind of tuck in and just wait for inevitable death, or he can go nuclear. So what does he do? Runs up White, kills Envy Taylor, who's sat inside a bar, comes down the other side of the stairs, gets into a key position in red 90, and kills Timor from there. Incredible round from Kamikaze. Not normally the player that you see clutching up big like that, but wins it out for his team in a round that looks surely to be SANDBOX's.
We're going to be heading back up to Barders. It's going to be that top floor. We've seen it 3 times. Defenders have failed to win it 3 times. NIP desperately need to turn those odds around here. They need to close it down. Now, what's going to help them do it, Des? Well, I've got a big secret for them. Big secret.
Oh, really?
Don't let Envy Taylor swinging through cocktail window. That's the big secret that they need to keep an eye on this time. MB Taylor absolutely tore them asunder last time by doing exactly that. He got himself onto cocktail balcony window. They had absolutely no idea. Pino on the castle was inside a cocktail, and there was just no challenge made towards him. He swung in, bang, got one, got two, found the man on top of Lumber as well, and it was poor from NIP. It's the only way of putting it. You can't let somebody come in through that window and have that sort of impact. Now, interestingly, Des, it's castled off, so they are definitely focusing on the potential for it.
I feel sorry for Pino. He's got so much setup work to do. He's got to do shotgun holes. He's got a bulletproof. He's got 4 armor panels to put down on opposite sides of the top floor. You know, it was still at, like, what, 10 seconds in, and he's still running around having to barricade things off. He's now got it all done. That bulletproof is still in back pocket, and we're at that 2-minute 45 mark. It's where it starts getting a little bit precarious, and Envy's going to do the same as last time, I imagine. He started off on this south side previously, knocked this out, went to the roof, opened up both of those hatches, and then went over to playing on the east window. So you're probably going to see a repeat again. I don't know if NIP will read into that. Hopefully they do, because you can't let him get away with the same thing again.
I'm just watching Pino at the minute. We're fortunate enough to have the top-down view at the same time. And I'm just keeping an eye on him because that bulletproof camera is still in back pocket. He's still working on setup. He's still opening that rotate. And that is a huge piece of utility, Des. Information, as we always say, is one of the most important things in Siege. And having it inside your pocket, it's doing nothing for you.
He was going to put it behind, like, bar 2, inside a cocktail. You can kind of get up on the table, put it on the wall. It can see straight through to the bar door, through to the cigar shop door, right next to the bomb on the right-hand side, but I think he must have had the call or realised himself he didn't have time to get everything done, and it was arguably more important to their hold of Piano and Cigar for him to be up there.
Easy.
Static, a freebie from below, just like we saw back in round 1.
Psycho who got it in round 1. You know, you can't be walking around open hatches.
Pino in round 1.
Either way, you can't
be a P player.
You can't be walking around open hatches like that when you've taken advantage of it previously. He's just absolutely given away a freebie there, and that for me has been the story of NIP over the last couple of rounds. Nova shuts down the hero of round 9. That's going to be Kamikaze Gone. 5 versus 3. We've got Envy Taylor on that cocktail window. I would put money on it again. I'm pretty sure it's Envy Taylor. NIP are just letting themselves in for a headache here. 3 versus 5, top floor. Plenty of time for SANDBOX.
Oh boy, they've got the bulletproof in place, and it's risky to go for that so late into a round. It must have been past the 2-minute mark, but Julio goes down. It's Harper this time round up on this window. Nade comes in, Pino's got to move out the way. Do they know? Yes, they do, but he still finds the kill. Muzi coming his way back up white now has got to find himself in a 2 versus 4. One follows him, and Muzi wins the fight. Do SANDBOX throw this away? Because they, my God, are damaging that conversion potential they've got. The plant is going down. Muzi, a 1 versus 2. They're going to see where he is, have to rotate away, but they've left themselves so much time, Tim. 35 seconds still on the clock, and they've got all the time in the world to play with.
Shayo very importantly on the east window cover here. Now then, Muzi, he's going to have to rotate all the way around, but as he moves through, he might just find himself cut off. One shot from Muzi! Absolutely rips Shayo off the rappel, but the diffuser was successfully planted by Nova in and amongst that. But my money in a 1v1 situation, Des, it's difficult to find an argument against Muzi here. Nova is low health. If Muzi finds him, it is going to be good night. Nova, he needs to play this smart now. Muzi knows exactly where he is. Can't find the head. Nova locked into the right angle, and what a play from him to close that out. So close from Muzi, though.
Oh, that got the nerves going, didn't it, Tim? For us as well as them. That's the first big round like that we've seen come down to a critical 1 versus 1, and SANDBOX win it out. Imagine if NIP win that, and we find ourselves at 5 and 5, because you might argue that would have been 2 rounds back-to-back that SANDBOX should have come out on top. They found one of the 2. They're at 6 and 4 and about to take this first map away from NIP. What I'm super excited about is that next map. Clubhouse is NIP's favourite map. It's SANDBOX's, or one of the 2, most banned. They have not played it in 5 months. They have banned it 25 times. That's how much they dislike it. This series is only going to get spicier the longer it goes on.
I mean, the reality of the end of that round, we were excited about NIP and about Muzi, but it all came down to that shot onto Shayo on the rappel, and it shouldn't be coming down to that for NIP. it shouldn't be a 1v2 with Muzi having to take a headshot like that to, you know, to be able to contend within the round, and that's what NIP need to focus on. We can get excited about that shot all we want, but the point is SANDBOX were in such a strong position that they still closed the round out, they still got the job done, and NIP are on the ropes right now. They find themselves at match point. SANDBOX could be taking map number 1 here in quick fashion. 7-4 could be the finish.
I just love that we're seeing full team contribution coming in from SANDBOX, right? We speak about Shyle and Envy as being this big duo for this team historically that you always turn to when you need to see results. But Static and Harper, 6 kills apiece. Nova, the hard support, 7 kills and a big clutch round out. This is a big team effort coming in, and for them to be able to almost bring down, at least on the first map, the defending world champions will be a massive boon to their confidence. Does it mean they'll win the whole series? No. But remembering again that even one means, so getting one map at least means you get a point. Those points are going to mean everything in this group. And again, just one map can be the difference maker.
Well, we said this, when you're only playing the people in your group once.
Yes.
Each win is massive. You know, coming in, say, with a full 3-point win.
Oh my. How is he alive?
Psycho escapes somehow. Coming in with a full 3-point win in the group stage could pretty much be enough to guarantee that you're going through to the knockout stage. You know, it's big. So every single match is important. But by contrast, what it also means is those final day games, they're big as well. There's not going to be any meaningless games because 3 points, a big win, even on the last day, could be enough to get you through to where you want to be. So every minute of these group stages matter.
Despite someone on white stairs, but they are long gone. Static, another big entry. I spoke about his entry performance against someone like Pino. He's doing plenty fine. Kamikaze gets one back, but traded out by Harper. Good team play. Nova, speaking of, another one coming through. It's a 4 versus 2 for SANDBOX. Can you smell it in the air race? It smells like a SANDBOX victory. It's on the way.
Like an upset, Des, is what it smells like, and they are putting it to NIP right now. They are not giving them any space to breathe. We're a minute 30 into the round, and there's only 2 members of NIP left alive. It's Pino, it's Psycho. They are a dynamic duo. They are absolutely capable of closing this round out. But as the drone drain in, as the information builds, as the picture is painted for SANDBOX, you just feel the pressure, Des. It's like being inside of a pressure cooker in the kitchen right now.
They've got nades, they've got 6 drones on side, they've got 65 seconds to play with. There is so much going in their favor. That nade looked almost certain to net a kill, but not quite to be the case. Psycho on the step out. Both C4s have now been used, and they found nothing for them. A great shot from Psycho. The length of the map, but traded out. SANDBOX playing so well together, have each other covered. They've had 2 big trades in this round, and Pino has got a clutch. It's a 1 versus 3 to keep them in. Sees the man in the corner. Can't see the head. I can't believe it. SANDBOX get the win on Kafe.
Well, they're going to have to go to Clubhouse in map 2, Des, which is surely going to be more difficult yet again, but they are going to be riding a wave of confidence here. They've come in, they have beaten the reigning world champions in the first map of SI 2022, and it just serves as a perfect reminder for us that there are no certainties here in Sweden.
So, SANDBOX 8-0 on Kafe. NIP 5-0 on Clubhouse. Both teams have picked the map that the other side has not lost, so you may see a total reversal coming in. One thing's for sure, that was an unexpected map. We have been entertained thoroughly, and Clubhouse is going to be an absolute screamer as well. We'll go to a quick break, and when we come back, map number 2 is coming your way. Welcome back to the A stream here at Six Invitational 2022, where we have just seen SANDBOX not quite dismantle, but definitely put on a solid show against NIP on Kafe.
It was a slow start from SANDBOX, but boy did they turn it around. They absolutely ran over them through that second half. There was just nothing NIP could do. The amount of times it was 2v4 and they just couldn't fight a way back into it. Impressive stuff from SANDBOX, and a really stark reminder for everybody here and everybody watching that there are no guarantees. Whatever your expectations are, throw them out of the window.
That's the beauty of international competition. We set it in towards the last couple of rounds as well. A team effort coming in from the side of SANDBOX. Everyone getting at least 7 kills on the board. Envy and Charles having some massive rounds between them, but also a couple of clutches coming out from Nova. Static big on the entry. 4-1. I didn't even look at that stat, but that is massive as well. It has been a great start. Now, we do have to course correct a little bit here, Ace. At the very start, we said, oh, this feels like it should have been the other way around, this map, Vito. That's because it was. We only just found out a few minutes ago that indeed Kafe was SANDBOX's pick and Clubhouse is NIP's pick, which to me makes a lot more sense because, again, SANDBOX are 8-0 on Kafe. They want to go back to that map. NIP are 5-0 on that map, and SANDBOX have not played it. They have banned it 25 times. It's been banned against them 3, but that, along with Chalet, is their perma-ban. They refuse to play that map, so it's a very smart call from NIP to go to their strongest and what also looks like one of the weakest of SANDBOXes.
I mean, we've seen a great start from SANDBOX. They've got the first map. Now comes, it's like the final boss challenge now, isn't it? They've got to get NIP on Clubhouse. If they win this and take the full 3 points, this group just blew wide open. That's the fact. And that is what is so exciting about group stages. That is, I can't wait.
The thing is that we said at the start, NIP 2-0 this, or it goes to 3 maps. That's what we said. We don't see SANDBOX 2-0 in this, and I still stand by that on Clubhouse. I don't see them getting a second win here and making it a 2-0.
NIP are pretty beaten up right now.
They are, but they're also going into a map of comfort. And what did we say on Kafe, right? Oh, come on, man.
Very solemn faces across the NIP bench, Des.
Mate, trust me, they'll get in the first round, get a round win. They'll be like, yeah! You know what LATAM are like? It's like they just won the World Cup every time they win a round. Full of passion and beans. They absolutely love it. But again, I want to refer to a point that I spoke about on Kafe. I said even with the Flores ban, which we'd seen SANDBOX playing 80% of their rounds across the attacking rounds they had on Kafe, across their 8-win streak they've currently got, they looked unfazed by it being banned away. They looked completely comfortable. They were happy to stick another operator in slot and say, cool, we've got a couple more shields to deal with. It's not going to be the end of the world. I imagine it's going to be much the same coming in here for NIP. They go onto a map they're very, very comfortable with. They won't really be too fazed by any bans that come out, and they just go for broke. I'm sure they can put on a show here and we get through to that third map that is Bank. And Bank for me is one of those maps that I look at and just think, there is not a clear-cut winner on that map because for both teams, it's a third, fourth preference map. It's in that mid-table. It's going to be spicy if it gets that far.
It certainly is. It's honestly, it's absolutely anybody's. I'm so excited right now.
I love it.
And we're only in game 1. It is absolutely ridiculous. We've got 5 more days of this. But the thing is, my brain is racing. I'm like, right, if SANDBOX win this and they get the 3 points, what does that do to the rest of the group? How does it... Like, my mind is racing, and it's going to... That's why I'm always so exhausted by the end of the group stages, because it's just like this constant planning and prepping and who does what and how does it affect everybody else. Absolutely love it.
I tell you what, mate, there'll be a meltdown if SANDBOX win this 2-0, because think of all the things he said coming in. NIP, defending world champions, second place at Sweden, obviously won here last year, coming in as many people's favourites against a team that have lost their coaches, that arguably are the weakest team in the whole competition, have now taken one map. They take a second, everything is just open wide. Worth
considering as well, obviously with the point distribution in the group, SANDBOX have got themselves at least a point now, because a 2-0 win will get you 3 points over the best of 3, but if it's a 2-1 win, then you would get 2 points and the loser would get 1 point. So even if NIP run this back and get the next 2 maps, SANDBOX will still have themselves a point.
The other teams in their group it's worth mentioning, of course, Sonics and Empire are currently playing right now on the other stream. M&M are the 5th team in their group. They will not play today. They play tomorrow because, of course, we have 5 teams in each group. 4 groups overall means that only 4 of those teams can play on a given day. Now, I don't want to give a bit of bias towards M&M here, but they get a lovely advantage today. They can sit and watch both of these games and know coming into tomorrow, okay, here's what these teams are playing like. What's their form like? How are they playing on certain maps?
You say that like it's going to be a pleasurable thing.
I think it's all right.
I'd love to sit and watch SANDBOX take NIP apart and think, I've got to play them.
That's very true. When do they play, actually? Who do M&M play on their first game?
Oh, dear
M&M
me.
play SANDBOX tomorrow.
I mean, if you're watching M&M, try, don't get scared by it, but, yeah, SANDBOX...
I get rattled. You'd have seen everyone who's kind of put down as the underdog from APAC currently slapping about the world champions. Yeah.
It's just Six Invitational things.
Yeah, just
that's all it is.
SI things. That's why I love international competition. On paper...
Listen, it's the best thing. The thing is, Siege isn't played on paper.
No.
That's the reality. And we can sit here all day long, and we do, believe us, we spend hours and hours, days and days and weeks in advance of this tournament, poring over the numbers, writing the storylines down, exactly what we think is going to happen.
Interviewing players to get an idea as well.
Talking to everybody, and we do... There is nothing more that could be done for us to build our expectations of what is likely to happen. But the bottom line is, it is all on paper, and that is not where this game is played. And you come into it, and it goes out of the window so many times.
We will get into game in just a second, just in case you guys are wondering why you're getting to stare at the beautiful faces of NIP and SANDBOX. We are just waiting for one more player to get in the lobby from NIP's side, and then we should be able to get things underway with Clubhouse. In case you missed it earlier on, that third map is then going to be Bank, assuming we get there. They should, given the popularity for NIP on Clubhouse, but you just don't know. It is SI, after all.
My concern, and I don't want to just keep siding with NIP. I don't want to be labelled...
Of course you do. You're a LATAM fanboy.
A LATAM fanboy.
Oh, sorry. I've already done that for you, mate.
But I still have to expect NIP to take Clubhouse. So then I start looking towards Bank, and I think historically... And I say this, and people sometimes disagree with me, especially since it's been reworked and reintroduced. But historically, I still just see Bank as such just a foundational LATAM map that I just think NIP are going to come in there and they're going to be good on Bank, because LATAM teams always have been. And
yeah, but you said that about Kafe yesterday.
I did say it about Kafe, but it feels like there was. So I still feel like NIP have got this win in them. But SANDBOX, they're going to be feeling good after that first map.
Absolutely.
It feels to me now like when we came in, you had world champs versus an APAC team that's had an up and down year. Now I feel like it's a very level playing field.
Yes. And this is I said this yesterday, we were talking about APAC as a region, we were talking to all the teams as we do, and we were talking about APAC. And I said, I'm kind of gutted really because Cyclops were having an up and up year. We got to Mexico and Damwon Kia put on one hell of a show. And it was like, I was kind of heartbroken for Cyclops because they were then being overlooked in favour of Damwon Kia, who I thought had a one-off. Then they come into Sweden and slap people about. They go toe-to-toe with the eventual winners. It comes down to that 1v1 in the very final round, round 15 of overtime on Oregon. I watched it back yesterday. I chucked a clip on Twitter. It was unbelievable. So right now, Damwon Kia are the love child for APAC. Everyone's backing them to go on and win. But if SANDBOX put on a show here, if Cyclops can show they've recovered and got themselves back on track as they were at the start of last year, suddenly it's not just one team from APAC that's looking scary. There's a few of them.
Well, I said a little while ago that APAC for me were on the same trajectory, the same timeline as LATAM, but that they were 12 months behind.
Yep.
They've got some seriously skilled players and they've got the ability. They just need to develop that strategy. They just need to start looking around the world and thinking what is the most efficient way of doing these things. And as soon as they catch up with that, they are going to be lethal. And for me, we've seen that with Damwon Kia throughout the year, but we've seen it with some of the other teams as well. We don't want to overlook them, as you've said. And this could be a tournament where we really start to see, hang on, APAC have not only caught up here, but they are competing.
And they could do much more than compete if this carries on. First ban coming in from SANDBOX is going to be the Habana, focused in towards those hatches, especially when attacking downstairs, which should make that the more preferential site on this map than, say, Cash CC. Maverick also going to be taken away, so the double hard breach ban coming through. That means Thatcher is available, mind you. So you will likely see him getting picked up in a number of rounds, which is why you may not see a Kai ban come through here. Some teams just prefer getting that off the board full stop, so you might still see it removed away, but it's going to be that other ban that I think will be interesting. Probably going to be a mirror, but we'll give it time. It's going to be another ban coming in here from NIP.
Going to see the Valkyrie, not too much of a surprise. I spoke about it in the last map, how important information and informational utility particularly is, and obviously Valkyrie, the queen of those cams, just distributing 3 of them around the map at will, wherever she pleases. They can be hidden away, very difficult to find, very time wasting. So Valkyrie's going to be gone. And Maestro, another informational operator, will go along with her.
All right. So you're seeing the Thatcher stay in place, seeing the Mirror stay in place. You may well see both brought along multiple times throughout this game. So a little bit different to what we saw on the prior map, where things like the Mutant Mozzie reign supreme, where we had a lot of shields being brought along by NIP. You might see those differences start to reign in. And straight away, Thatcher picked up by Julio. On the other side, no Mirror just yet, but could get 6th picked in. We're going to start on a bit of a different site as well here, Tim. It's going to be Gym and Bedroom to kick things off.
It is an interesting one. Historically, we've seen this be the 3rd choice site, but it has raised, so we've seen a raise in popularity for it recently. With the decline, I would say, of CCTV and Cash. CCTV and Cash seems to have become sort of easier and easier to attack. We've seen that wall getting open quicker and quicker, and it's been difficult for teams to keep hold of. So they have edged towards Gym and Bedroom, which sort of makes it a 2nd choice site, which means inevitably you're always going to get teams that try to just switch it up, mix things around, and they will go there first. And that's exactly what SANDBOX are going to do for us today.
Dug up the stats, have a look at what was going on with the Maestro ban, because I know we used to have the old trifecta of, Mirror, Maestro, Echo. That was the thing a couple of years ago, where it would always be those 3, or at least 2 of the 3 being banned away. We don't really see Maestro bans all that much anymore. And here, looking at the stats, it's not an operator that NIP play. So maybe it's just a fear for SANDBOX, knowing that back in the old days when they used to play this map before Giants became the dominant team on Clubhouse in the region, that they simply don't want to deal with the information game coming out there. Double hard breach ban, double info ban. Just makes sense that all good things come in pairs. So let's see how Gym and Bedroom shapes up. That Mirror is on side. Likely going to see that facing one out towards the Jacuzzi breach, the other one inside of logistics, looking down in towards construction.
Static's just got a horrible angle there out of the garage door. He's looking to see if anybody strays past on the side of NIP. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't get any joy from it. Nova just dipping away down the blue stairs for the time being. But these are all players that need to be picked up. Getting out on the roam like that, it's almost sort of the reverse SSG roam. It's going to waste a lot of time.
And it's a mute out doing this as well with the SMG on side. Not really the operator of choice that you see doing that roam. You see someone normally like Envy Taylor on the Alibi doing that. Perhaps Shy Wild playing on the Jaeger. But here, you've got one of your hard support players out on their own looking to cause trouble around the map. Fair play to him. I'm sure he'll come back up and join the team at some point in the round, just looking at what late round impact he can have, essentially. For NIP, it's a big focus out towards this Jacuzzi breach. Very common to get control of this, get control of Jim, and look to plant him behind the single reinforced wall that you see between the two sites. But you've got to deal with this mirror that sits in front first and foremost.
You can just see with the use of our silhouette there, the exothermic charge being deployed. Impact Nade is going to be unsuccessful, and Moosey's going to find an opener onto Envy Taylor. So the NIP attack is well and underway now. The Jacuzzi wall has been opened. Psycho's working from underneath, but they still haven't shut down Nova. We can see him out on the roam, and you just wonder if NIP are aware of him or not, because if not, they could get hurt on the flank. As we can see, he's still very mobile at the minute, but he's about to run into Psycho potentially, who we can see is just through in bar, but he's busy with his nades, Des, and he might not know that he's just being approached here. He gets challenged from both angles at the same time, and that is surely going to be a kill. There's the down, and there's the finish. Nova not picked up on the roam and punishes NIP for it.
I will give it to SANDBOX. Their 2v1s across Kafe, and now in this first round, have been incredible so far. Whereas NIP have been kind of a bit solo operate. Oh my, no way has he just killed him on a blind spray through garage door. Yes, he has. That's unbelievable. And Nova is going to be livid. But it's a 4 versus 3. Pino almost losing his life out once again, but still keeps himself alive, at least for now. Static trying to swing him out. They've got a couple still out towards the west side of the map, and now one trying to pressure onto Static. Gets the down, but there's the 2v1 coming in from NIP. Make it a 3 versus 1 as Kamikaze swings in. It's a temporary 3 versus 2, but it'll be 4 versus 2 before long, and NIP have got 30 seconds to make this work.
Static was very stuck there between a rock and a hard place. 3 players closing in on him, and they get that kill. Out goes the Nitro from Harper. Not going to find anything. Needs to be careful about just overextending into that corridor. The Jacuzzi wall is open, of course. There you go, the peek round the corner. Kamikaze gets Shyle. Julio actually with a trade, taking Kamikaze down himself, but manages to make amends and find that final kill. That's going to be the round to NIP.
You can't even argue there. Oh, you ran in front of me, mate, because he was in front of him the whole time.
Kamikaze swung it, so no, not having.
Bless his soul. It started out well for SANDBOX. I feel Envy getting picked out inside a gym for free was maybe a small misstep by them, not being aware of the pressure being exerted by NIP and being stung in the backside as a result. But no surprises, NIP on their preferred map have won their first attacking round. Now SANDBOX step across into CCTV and Cash. The Kai being brought along here to help keep that wall locked up tight, and once again, the mirror being 6 picked in.
So we'll see if NIP learn their lessons from Nova there. They didn't really pick up on the roaming mute. They were punished for it, but they reacted well.
Never thought I'd say that, roaming mute.
The clearance still went well overall, I think, for NIP. They were able to get themselves a couple of kills, only lost 1 man in doing so. It really wasn't the end of the world, but they need to just be making sure that they do find everybody that is off out on the roam. It's going to be Cash and CCTV this time around, so SANDBOX really staying away from that basement floor for the time being. So likelihood here is we're going to see somebody trying to hold on to that garage catwalk for as long as possible. We've got Static just reinforcing the lower levels as we would expect. The mirror has been placed on the CCTV wall, which is always an interesting one, because what you tend to find, you don't play too much sort of boots on the ground inside a CCTV. As soon as they come up and start trying to breach that wall, what they're going to do is they're going to punch the mirror so that it shatters and you can't see through it anymore. When that happens, the man in behind the shield on the Cash door is likely to peek over, shoot out the mirror, and that makes it very dangerous to approach the wall to open it. So it's all a little bit of cat and mouse.
It's even less so the fact that you can't get to it, because you can just rappel above it essentially and come from upside down, get the exothermic on and get off. The difficulty comes is that you only have 2 exothermics and you've got Envy with 2 impacts in his back pocket. You'll see that come through here, like going to be the go-to play. He can remove both exothermics. They've got the ace on side, but if you have to commit 2 or 3 of those towards getting this wall open, you've only really got 1 for the garage wall that is also a pretty critical element to get open on this map. But with the double hard breacher ban, you're sort of forced to play into this. I think they're a little bit late potentially in getting this one opened up here. They won't be able to deny it away. And sure enough, 1 exothermic does the trick. As soon as it's opened, 3 players from NIP get straight onto drones to find out what the state of play is. Have any members of SANDBOX moved in response? Where is our push needing to come in from next? It's good kind of strategical play coming out from NIP.
Important as well that we give a shout out to our wonderful observer. We've got Easy joining us for this map, for this entire match, to be fair. What a great job he's done so far, and I'm sure will continue to do throughout the tournament. So welcome Easy, and thank you for joining us in the first match.
He told me he hates your voice.
Did he?
Yeah.
I can imagine him.
He hates listening to your cast for 3 hours. He said his ears bleed afterwards.
Yeah.
Shout too much.
And
didn't say that.
It's really what it's all about is the overtime. That's what he doesn't like.
Observer's worst nightmare. There's an ace, overtimes galore. Here comes the opening kill from Harper, though. Catches Psycho on the run in through the front door. I was trying to clear Easy's name. He didn't say that. He loves you dearly, really, I guarantee. Either way, 1 kill coming in. A couple of damage members on the side of NIP. Meanwhile, for SANDBOX, all 5 still healthy and alive. No concerns at all. You've got Charles holding near this window, daring someone to come vaulting through as Pino trades back elsewhere.
Not bad from NIP, just keeping themselves level, and importantly, they've got control of Garage Catwalk. Shio manages to find Julio, though, and no matter what NIP seem to do well, there always is another problem for them to solve. That's something SANDBOX are doing well here, keeping them thinking, because once you've got that East Breach and the Garage Catwalk, you really should be in a position to start thinking about getting the diffuser down, but there's still definitely more work that needs to be done for NIP.
You need to open this soft wall here, really, to get it through. They've got Muzi with the impact in hand, I think, waiting to bust it open, but I don't know if that hit the spot he was intending for. They've got the window to play in, but they've got to vault now. Or no, they don't. That's a lie. The exothermic is still in back pocket. You can ignore me. They'll get this wall opened up. I think they're trying to impact it off, but they missed both. And Envy's gone down. The flank comes in, but it's caught by Pino. What a fantastic read. They've got the wall opened up. There's 20 seconds still to play, and Nova has got 1 smoke canister left. NIP can do this, but it's going to be tight. They find a wonderful angle, and now it's all down to Nova. Another smoke comes through. He's going to watch the window, sees the man, but can't quite do it. What a push coming out from NIP. They dealt with the flanks. They dealt with the long angles. They didn't even worry about the smoke. Beautiful attack.
We're starting to see why NIP are so effective on Clubhouse here. There is no problem that they don't seem able to solve. I've got to shout something out from Pino there, Des. It was only a small thing and it would be easy to miss. He was moving up garage stairs. He knew that there was one underneath in lounge that could potentially be a problem. Pino continued that push, and whilst supporting Kamikaze, looking into CCTV, he was actually watching 2 angles. So he was aware of lounge door and he was looking out into CCTV to assist Kamikaze on the catwalk. And as soon as the push came from lounge door, he wheeled around, he got the kill. It was unreal from Pino to be able to monitor 2 angles like that so consistently and so effectively. Absolutely beautiful play from him.
Interesting change coming in here for our downstairs defense. Normally you'd see quite a hunkered down setup. I think back to BDS in Europe, for example. You'll see him really trying to dig in. Arguably, we've seen a mute roam already. The only operator I look at there and think, right, site player is the Kaid. You could find yourself potentially here with 4 roamers out running around the map, looking to cause a little bit of bother. On the other side then, it's going to be a game that we saw like we had on Kafe, where you've got to invest so much time in clearing out these roamers that for NIP, they lost a couple of rounds attacking Kitchen as a result. This could play out exactly the same, and sure enough, you've got 2 or 3 members looking to play on the top floor here, 1 inside a bar, almost like an SSG roam without the usual operator lineup.
Right then, NIP, they're going to go in and look to clear this out. Again, we saw them do it very well in round 1. They didn't pick up on Nova, but other than that, they were able to really deal with those roamers well. So they're going to be looking for a repeat of that, and quick pressure again. Psycho getting logistics hatch open immediately, looking to get that drone in. Muzi pushing from Gym and Bedroom side. This is going to be rapid play from NIP. We can see the drones going in. They're going to know exactly where Envy Taylor is. He thinks about taking a little peek. He's opening up angles with the bailiff there to try and just make himself a little bit more tricky, but he keeps getting forced away. Finds Psycho though, great opener for Envy Taylor despite the pressure that he was facing, manages to hold on and keeps fighting on the top floor.
This is so beautiful for Envy here as well, because the wall is still closed behind him. He can play super comfortably inside a CC. And is now challenging out onto this balcony. So NIP can't play inside that on the balcony to contest the windows until this is cleared out. It's almost like the defense you see coming in for Gym and Bedroom, but a similar sort of style. They're working their way through the top floor. They've lost 1 man. Drones are all still intact, bar 1, so it's not too bad in terms of the intel game. But at this point, you'd much rather have your sledge alive. Given the site that we're playing on, you need that hammer to be opening up the floor.
Muzi just going to take out a lot of utility as he goes, and that is the top floor cleared. 1 minute 30 into the round. NIP can start now working into the mid floor, thinking about the hatches, but as you say, they have lost a lot of potential for soft destruction there. They've still got an explosive grenade on the side of Muzi, but other than that, it could be tough. A couple of soft breaches from the ace. They need to use those very specifically for the angles that they want.
Absolutely. Well, a couple will probably go down the hallway here. You might have one that gets placed inside a kitchen position as well, and maybe even not a couple to try and force them out of back Arsenal. Novas needs to be careful here as that wall, sorry, the ceiling above him is starting to open up, meaning he can no longer play on that far west side of Arsenal. I know the Malusi as well, by the way, at the very back of Arsenal out to the far west. He's almost expecting someone to come charging in through Ash Rush wall and make a play from there. But right now, they're focusing everything on getting this one opened up. They see a man lay down. It's all too easy for Pino to pick up Static, who was looking in towards Moto. Church is now wide open, and it's clear, at least the sandbox, where NIP are coming from.
It's clear where they're coming from, and it's clear where to get the kills. Julio manages to just burst into sight like an arrow, just piercing through its target. He goes right into the heart. It's Muzi that's going to be shut down. Julio has the opportunity to get the diffuser down. He's going to take it, Des. He's going to stick this. He's going to be successful now. Then they know roughly where he's playing. Sandbox need to make a challenge here, and
they have to know.
He is stuck, Des. There's no real way out of this other than to fight, and fight he will. Finds one, but not the second. Shio able to shut the man down in a trade, will get in and disable that diffuser, and it's a good defense from Sandbox.
Almost a repeat of what, well, it was a repeat of what we saw of Muzi back on Kafe when he had the 3K into a 1 versus 1 against Nova. Just couldn't quite win that last gunfight, and it played out exactly the same here. It's good news for Sandbox. They get their first defensive round win, but now need to find a few more. A 3-3 half at least is what you're looking for here on Club.
It seemed to be a bit of a hero play for me in that round to really put NIP in it at all. It was Julio just sort of bursting into sight from Moto and managing to catch Sandbox unaware that really gave them any opportunity. So I think, you know, we've got to give credit to Sandbox on that one. Other than that one moment, they pretty much had the round locked down. It was well played from them. They're going to be heading back up to gym and bedroom this time around, which was, of course, the first site of choice. They lost it. NIP were able to fairly comfortably get the win on this one.
They're really enjoying these mirror 6 picks. They just keep on rolling, keep on coming through. Just leave NIP guessing. Is there a mirror? Isn't there a mirror? I imagine you're going to see an identical setup to before as well. One facing out here towards Jacuzzi Wall. One over looking down into construction. Just stops the attackers from being able to rush through that east side, and it can be really hard to break it unless you manage to clear stock out, which isn't always the easiest feat. It's hard to get the angle for grenades into the player that will be playing behind the mirror window, and you've also got to deal with things like the Wamai, the Jaeger as well. So a big focus should be one, getting control of CC to stop the player playing on the west window there, and then probably the same as before, looking to push in through Jacuzzi Wall, because why fix what ain't broken? Interesting change. Second mirror window goes down here into Jacuzzi, so it's almost like they aren't anticipating an attack to come down through construction sides.
We'll see whether NIP decide to switch things up and utilise that avenue or not. For the time being, Static is still out on that side of the map on the garage catwalk. He's going to be trying to prevent quick access coming in through garage, and that's exactly what it seems NIP may well be looking for. The drones are raining in now. They'll pick him up if he's still up there on the top floor, but he's decided it's time to dip away. He's not going to be looking to face and front up to that sort of pressure for the time being. He's going to go all the way back to construction, so that basically gives a lot of that east side to NIP for free. He moves himself back and he is keeping himself mobile. NIP need to be aware of that, but I'm a little bit concerned for Static here because there's going to be a number of NIP guns moving in very quickly, very soon.
He might find himself caught out if he's not careful, which is why he wants to back away now. Has to be careful of the garage player as well, who isn't currently sat on the angle itself, was on drone. That may have, I was going to say it closed off the fact that he took the swing and then stepped back in. I was like, you kind of chanced it a bit there. You should have just got out a long time ago. Finds himself stung, and a good, rapid entry into the building by NIP finds them an opener.
I think Sandbox haven't really committed enough to trying to hold on to that east side. I think Static was sort of like a token force out there to try and hold it down, but NIP recognised that, and as soon as they said, look, there's one man here, they know that they can get him closed down. Look how well, Des, they are identifying locations now. They are singling players out and they are shutting them down. This is a great stage one from NIP, just going in, ticking boxes, clearing roamers, gaining map control. They can now start thinking about the site.
Sandbox in the last round, they did this really well too. They roamed for a minute and a half, got back to site, all 5 alive, killed one man, didn't really kill any drones, but it was a good roam for them. This round, totally different story. 2 already going down, I think being caught out by NIP's pace, and then there's a classic A-Pat move, jumping out here, Envy just about getting away with his life. Harper waiting for the man to come stepping in, seizing, get some shots through the soft wall, but isn't going to go down. You're basically looking for the colour on the other side of those holes to change to indicate there is an operator there, and you just spray, and it was NIP who pulled the trigger first.
Shell just holding down the main stairs for the time being. He knows that there's a man underneath it in bar, I think, but it's unlikely that the pressure is going to come. Just trying to find an angle there to open that mirror window up. Won't be successful for the time being, but the jacuzzi has been opened up. That much is for sure. There you go, a kill from Kamikaze on the windows, and that's all thanks to that east side pressure early in the round. As once you've got control of that, you can sit Kamikaze on the windows for the rest of the round, and as soon as the defenders try to rotate, you pick up the kills. But look at the time, 20 seconds left to go. It's time to move, NIP. It's time to go. It's now or never. You got to do it inside the round. Shayo gets mobile, finds himself one, but Muzi, he finds Harper. There's got to be an opportunity for Kamikaze. He decides to find the kill instead of make the plant, and that's going to be another round for NIP. 3-1, and they looked head and shoulders above there on that gym attack.
They're looking very good. Outside of being caught by the Roamers in the previous round, that's all that SANDBOX have got going for them. NIP are in full control here on their favourite map at 3-1. I said it earlier, SANDBOX really are looking for at least 3 rounds out of this half, and it doesn't look like NIP are even going to think about giving them that chance. We step back into CC and Cash, which NIP, if you remember, had a really solid attack coming through Garage. They got the reinforcement opened up with the exothermic. They dealt with the angles being contested. They dealt with the flank from below. Pino with great flank watch there, and it didn't really seem to bother them. For SANDBOX, I know the whole game plan is, get on the flank here, cause a bit of trouble where you can, swing for those angles, play the APAC style that LATAM are happy to try and contest against as well. But I almost want to say, sit back a bit. NIP are slow. Play for C4s, play for smokes, play for things that are going to sting them in the tail later in the round. Don't worry about it too much earlier on.
Where we saw NIP just switch things up a little bit in that last round compared to the first attack on that site, I'm expecting to see more of the same here on CCTV. As you said, Des, it was just such a good take, got themselves established, opened the wall, Garage, everything was there for them, and SANDBOX didn't really have any answers. So I'm not sure really that NIP need to change this up and look for a construction-sided push. So I think we'll at least see at least an early attempt. Now, interestingly, Harper has chosen to just place that mirror window higher up in the wall rather than at the crouch height previously used. Of course, as you say, it was easy for the exothermic to just be placed on an upside down rappel above it. That might just change things a little bit now.
Maybe so, maybe so. Harper holding out towards far west, which is not really the most usual place for a mirror, admittedly. I mentioned those C4s in back pocket. You might want to be holding on to those. For now, at least, they're going to worry about holding down the west side as well as the site itself. For NIP, I imagine, no messing about. Let's just look straight towards the site and start making our moves in. Once again, they've got this window set up on the CC wall. No one playing with the impacts, at least to sit around it and try and contest. They've got 2 C4s in pocket. So I'm kind of like, well, is there a point in the mirror window in that case? Like, you're not going to worry about it too much, because as soon as that wall starts getting opened up, it's too late. Like, the mirror is then completely ineffective. It doesn't matter anymore.
Envy Taylor just trying to play aggressive against that wall. Unlikely to get the good grace of the use of the mirror to be able to assist in the bandit tricking, as it will likely be punched out. But of course then there are further opportunities beyond that to try and prevent that wall being opened. And so far, Des, they've held on to it for a minute. It was 45 seconds or less last time that wall was opened in. So NIP certainly applying more caution to it this time. Shayo going to take some damage on the blue stairs there. Manages to keep himself fighting, and I think he knows that there is one on the upside down rappel. He's being very cautious. He knows he's there, but you ain't going to beat Julio on that angle. The headshot comes in, and that's going to be the opener for NIP.
Yeah, real bugger as well. Julio holding a great angle. Charles no doubt saw his head, just couldn't quite react in time. They've got this full coverage on the downstairs they were looking for, which means they can force the players out. They can get rid of the bandit. He's going to have to hightail out as he gets himself blown sky high. In it comes, and they clear it through. They've also got the Thatcher coming in. They're doing everything they can to deny this wall away. Tries to go for the electric charge. Very risky over the floor from below, and sure enough, will get blasted out from below, I believe, by the Sophia. Maybe I'm wrong, but down he goes, and the wall is opened. That's why you don't want to try and go again to get an electric charge down onto that wall, as you might find yourself losing out. I'm not entirely sure about that, but we'll take it. Taking the kill credit.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting choice, because whilst a man is down like that, it can be used as a camera. There is intel there. There's still the opportunity to maybe feed back information as to whether there is a push coming on the breach or not. So we'll see how that sort of progresses. But NIP looking pretty good at this point. 5 versus 3, 40 seconds left to go. They've got the wall open. If anything, Des, you mentioned slowing NIP down, and that's something SANDBOX have managed to do. They're not as far ahead as they were last time, but they are certainly ahead in the numbers game. Beautiful shot from Harper, but shut down immediately on the trade from Julio. 4 versus 1. Nova just bouncing bouncing left, right and centre here. Toxic Babe canister goes out, but the shotgun kill was not enough for Muzi, who comes in and gets that kill. It's going to be NIP taking themselves a considerable lead here now, 4-1.
I mentioned the 2v1s that SANDBOX were finding on Kafe. Make it 3v1s here on Club for NIP. That's been probably the third round now. We've seen them get into a spot either towards the end of a round or relatively early on, where they're pushing a player from 3 different angles. A couple of windows, doorways, whatever you might look for. They've always got a way to shut a player down no matter what he does. If he gets 1 kill, it doesn't matter. There's 2 more still there to trade him out. It's really hard for SANDBOX, and I think that kind of speaks to map comfort, that the teams are that able to be so aggressive when they know the map, when they know what angles they can play for. It just again screams comfort. They're at 4 attacking rounds. This could be 5, in which case Bank is on the way. Certainly looks like we're heading in that direction, Des, at the minute. Like you say, whether they can turn that around, you just can't see. Once NIP get on the defence of Clubhouse, I'd be very surprised to see SANDBOX take too much away from them, to be honest. So right now, very important round coming up for SANDBOX Gaming. They need to get the basement locked down. They did it back in round number 3. It's the one site that they've won so far, despite Julio getting the diffuser down. It was all really NIP's best effort, was a flurry of kills from Julio, just sort of injecting himself into sight from Moto effectively and just catching SANDBOX unawares. But SANDBOX reacted well, got themselves in a nice 2v1, able to close out the round. So NIP, they need to do things a little bit differently. For me, I think losing that opening kill to Envy Taylor on the roam, allowing SANDBOX back to site and playing 4v5 onto site after losing a minute and a half, it was just all a bit too much, especially losing Pino on the sledge. It was. So the big challenge this time is, can they, you know, close down these roamers sooner? They know they need to go through the top floor and clear them out. Well, not, they don't have to, but that's kind of been their go-to tactic so far, rather than saying, right, push blue, push dirt, whatever we might choose, and try and make the plays happen. Here it looks like, again, it's going to be another full top floor clear. So not losing out a man or 2 early on is going to be critical for the side of NIP. Let's see them shut these roamers down.
Still got a little bit of setup work going on for Envy Taylor there as he uses the bailiff to create himself a little rotate. Exactly the same position as we saw him playing in last time with the alibi. Ooh. Takes the challenge but takes a lot of damage this time. NIP, they are not going to be fooled again by Envy Taylor. Pino manages to find his partner in crime, Static. He's taken out and Envy Taylor has no choice but to drop away here. Harper is still alive in the bar. Shio out on the roam as well. There is a huge roam presence from SANDBOX here, but you just feel like NIP, they are creeping forward and taking map control inch by inch.
I love how there's 2 Thunderbirds just sat together and Envy's just sprinted through them all and gone from like 40 HP basically straight back up to full. Now he gets himself back out on the roam. It's like a battleship essentially, with like planes returning in, or aircraft carriers, I guess, back to station, refuel. And I lie, it's not 2. It's all 3 Thunderbirds sat together just for the roamers to top back up again. Wicked. I love stuff like that.
It's really cool. An interesting little setup, as you say, just there as a little gauntlet for them to run and just pick up all that extra health. Now then, top floor is pretty much in the control of NIP. They're going to start working towards the mid-floor. Kamikaze going to open dirt tunnel as well. I like to see this. Let's add another layer to that attack. You don't want that single-sided push. We saw how SANDBOX dealt with it last time around, so let's mix it up. Let's give them something else to think about. Envy Taylor just trying to use those vertical angles against them, and they need to be careful here. Envy Taylor, so mobile, Des. He's just causing an absolute nuisance of himself. Harper able to find Julio. Pino manages to find what a kill from Harper. Second in the round, and absolutely destroys Kamikaze, but he's stuck, Des. He's stuck and he's shut down by Muzi. 45 seconds.
Harper has definitely just broken his wrist. What a flick as well. It was unbelievable. But for NIP, it's still a numbers advantage for them. Nice shot or not, they've still got the lead and are in control here. Nova yet to really find many kills on this map outside of a TK arguably upstairs when his teammate was down. Envy Taylor it was. Shile also needing to look to go big. It's been a quiet map for several of the heroes on SANDBOX, at least those that shone back on Kafe, and in come NIP. 15 seconds on the clock. A double drop inside of Moto. I'm not sure they're too aware about Charles hidden here inside the corner. Juiced up to the high heavens as well. He can't win a gunfight. Pino finding under 3k. Nova needs to find himself a kill back onto the other side here. Something to shut it down. Must know there are 2 inside here. They know where he is. Pino finds a 4k. What a massive half for NIP, going 5-1.
This is certainly more of what we expected to see out of NIP. Get them back on their map, get them back on their playground, and they are just absolutely messing SANDBOX up at the minute. They are really taking them apart. 5-1 at the half and move on to defense. This could be a really quick map for NIP to get themselves back into it. And I always say this in a best of 3 days. I think whoever wins that second map has a little bit of an innate advantage there in that you just carry that momentum forward. You know, SANDBOX's first map win will feel like a long time ago at that point, especially when NIP have come in and played like they have in the second map. Going into Bank is not going to be easy for them.
No, I think I still lean towards NIP taking this 2-1 if it does go to Bank, as much as it's a pretty balanced map for both teams. It's where it comes down to an even playing field and not knowing the map like the back of your hand, it not being the favourite that you've played several times recently. That's where really I think I give NIP the lean, especially on a map like this and why SANDBOX had the advantage on Kafe. That kind of goes out the window once we get to Bank. But Tim, we've got to get there first. SANDBOX are now stepping into the attack. And looking back at Kafe, it was an attacker-leaning map. Both teams being more successful, generally, on the attack. NIP had 3 rounds, and SANDBOX just cleared things out in their attack in half. Let's see how they do with a couple of rounds of attack first, or if NIP just close this out like 7-1 right now.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I think we will see some very strong defences coming in here from NIP. We're going to see them defending down in basement to begin with. There's a large roam presence, Psycho, Pino, Muze, and that is not a trifecta of names that you really want to hear out on the roam.
Absolutely not. I mean, they're clear got a lot better as well, so you know, they're in that mood of, okay, roam clear, playing roam, whatever else it might be. They know what it is they're looking for here as well. For SANDBOX, it could be a direct-to-site sort of vibe. They're already getting themselves inside a kitchen and saying, yep, don't worry too much about the top floor for now. Envy inside 20 seconds, already looking to get this floor opened up. Part of that leaning in towards being able to deny away any C4 players that might look to play below, but also to make sure they can very comfortably open up this hatch, just in case they're worried, for example, about Psycho playing with those impacts to deny any charges that go down on towards the hatch. You have got Pino above, C4 in hand looking towards the hatch, and can deny away any hard breach that gets put onto this hatch.
We can see there's a lot of floor opened up in the kitchen there, so that's going to make it very difficult for anybody to play underneath. But as you say, they're not really trying to play it from that direction at the minute. It's more about Pino. He is the man above him, but I'm not sure he knows the direction. He certainly does out because the nitro, it's detonated mid-air. And somehow, SANDBOX, they managed to keep themselves at a full man count there. The drone is on him. Pino knows that he's been spotted. He knows the information's there. The utility's raining in. He's going to hold on, Des. He's nearly halfway through the round. He wants to waste time. He wants to keep them out of kitchen, and that's what he's doing right now. That hatch is still closed. This is great play from Pino on the mute.
He's not being pressed from anywhere else as well either. I mean, SANDBOX, that's the second time they've now concussed him out. The whole hatch goes white, so we can't see anyone on the hatch and should lose it out, but no! Shyle can't quite see him in time. Pino finds it, hatch stays. In fact, no, hatch gets open at the same time. So they've doubled up here with a bit of a distraction up on the hatch. Sure, they pay the price of Shyle, but the hatch is open. No use of them because they can't play through it as long as Pino is sat above.
That's the thing. It wasn't worth sacrificing that life of Shyle to get the hatch open because Pino's still in place. You needed the kill onto Pino. Because as you say right now, kitchen is a no-go while Pino is up there. Kamikaze, he's going to be holding on to the dirt tunnel, and honestly, I love this defense from NIP. So aggressive, Des, and they're just really holding on to those important channels. SANDBOX have had no answer to this so far. They're still droning with less than a minute to go. Kamikaze is not for being moved. He's used all his toxic babe canisters, but he's going to just root his feet in here and hold on to that shotgun.
For now, swings, gets a bit of a blast down to Nova, who's down to 40, but no kill to be found. Elsewhere, Pino gets Envy. So he's still the troublemaker above. Why have they not pinched him through Jacuzzi Wall, for example? There we go. Finally an aid comes in. He can't see the angle because the hole is so tight. Can't see into the window, but it's taken 2 minutes and 35 seconds to unseat someone in Narnia, for all intents and purposes, the other side of the map. Judo playing downstairs, C4 in pocket, waits for the drop. In comes one on the drop, but they don't know that he's here in the back corner. It's a 1 versus 3 for Harper. NIP will close out this round. We go to 6-1, and it's looking like an NIP clean out here, Tim.
Fuse it down on the ground. There's absolutely nothing that Harper can do in that situation, and that round was won by Pino. Simple as that. Kept himself alive fantastically up in logistics. It's a completely different style of holding on to the bottom floor. It wasn't a roam so much on the top floor. power as it was, I'm going to keep that kitchen hatch closed.
That was an anchor.
When it gets opened, I'm going to keep you from going through it. And it's exactly what Pino did, getting himself kills, both in defending the hatch, but also in preventing its use as well. Fantastic from NIP. Psycho holding on to Dirt Tunnel was a big part of it as well. Love to see it. That was a masterclass of holding on to Church and Arsenal.
It was beautiful, and now they get to go to gym and bedroom. It's looking dicey for SANDBOX. They need 5 wins in a row to send it through to overtime, and that's assuming they can find wins over there as well. It's not feeling too... It's not feeling too likely, is the best way to put it right now. It's not looking to go in their favor. Let's see how this setup goes. They're looking out towards NIP. A couple of roamers on there looking towards Psycho and Kamikaze, maybe holding out towards the east. The Echo, an interesting one. We spoke about that Intel operator bands being the Valkyrie and the Maestro. They're bringing along a third choice that you don't see all that much these days. More specific teams like to use it. I'm thinking of like Empire, I'm thinking of Team Secret, Kendrew specifically. G2 have ran it a few times. Again, definitely not a super popular operator, but still used in niche cases, which I think is a good sign the operator's in a pretty good place.
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't want to see a cookie cutter 5 every single time. We like to see those differences. We like to see those operators being brought in and out. So we're going to have the top floor of gym and bedroom. It looks like there's going to be much more attention paid towards the east side. If you remember, SANDBOX, they just sort of put a token force over there of Static on his own, and it just wasn't enough. There's NIP just went and absolutely cleared him out of there, no problem. We've got Muzi just on the red stairs, Julio in CCTV, Pino joining them inside of Cash. It just sends the message that NIP are not going to give up east side too easy because they don't want the pressure from the windows.
Here we go. I mean, for SANDBOX, they've played this roam a couple of times themselves. They should be knowing what to do. And it's the same thing NIP did, you know, push your way in through garage pretty quickly, get straight up there and try and close out the rotation from red back out towards site or into construction, and you work your way forward from there, hopefully having picked yourself up a single kill. For now, a lot of the work seems to be on the downstairs or the stairways. You had Envy playing off on the south window, you had Static playing on the main stairs here, who, worth mentioning by the way, hasn't had a great time this game. He was 4-1 on entry back on Kafe, here being a little bit quieter.
Psycho's all the way down in the basement. He has been picked up by a drone, I believe, just a couple of seconds ago, but I'm not sure exactly what SANDBOX are going to do about it because time is ticking. They're over a minute into the round now, and they're not really keen, it looks like, on sending anybody down there. I think they're more content in just sort of holding the stairways and not allowing him back up from the basement to cause a nuisance of himself. But as we know, Psycho, it's not really always your choice how much of a nuisance he is. He's going to manage to just scurry away there, get himself back up to the top floor. He'll support that east side defence. We're halfway through the round and no great control gained by SANDBOX yet. They've got the east breach open, but they haven't moved into that east side. They haven't started to move players out of cash, and they haven't really pressured anybody inside a bathroom or from Jacuzzi Wall just yet.
Looking a little bit stalled out overall, really. It's one of those where they're not quite sure what the next play is. Apparently killing someone from below is a great play to make, though. Kamikaze getting caught on site. Unfortunate as well, because a few steps to the right, and he was probably far enough onto the concrete that he wouldn't have died from that nade. These things happen. A good kill from Static coming in from below. 5 versus 4.
Going well so far for NIP, you feel, despite that loss early on. It's more about the time here. We've got the smoke canisters coming out. We've got the utility being used just to try and prevent the push coming forward. Psycho's going to be able to move through that. This could be important. It's worth taking the damage as he finds the kill completely unexpectedly there. Psycho onto Harper, and NIP with 30 seconds left to go have dealt what could be a hammer blow to this attack.
They've still got the Yokais on side. They've still got themselves a spot where they can chuck impacts in and maybe do enough damage to scare someone off. You know, for SANDBOX, it's looking a bit dicey. They get Psycho, though, who was low HP. They've killed the Yokai player as well. The Echo is gone. Nova's getting the plant down on 1 versus 3. Muzi has got to do it all. He's 7-2 so far on the map, but this needs to be the clutch of the day from him. It's not to be. Nova plants. He finds himself 2 kills, and SANDBOX hold on for at least 1 more round.
It's all falling apart there for NIP. They were in such a commanding position. Psycho just able to get them a great kill on the flank through Jim, and SANDBOX somehow managed to just wheel around, find a couple of kills and turn things on its head, and you just feel that that's exactly what they needed at this point. I'm surprised a little bit that we haven't seen a tactical timeout brought along by SANDBOX. They've been facing map point now. They only have 2 rounds on the board, but they continue going.
Absolutely. Well, Let's see how things play out. I'm still thinking that the 4 rounds climb is a bit too high for SANDBOX. They're not quite triathlete runners just yet. We'll have to see how map 3 goes when we get there, assuming, of course, we do get there, but I can see NIP closing this out in the next couple of rounds once they've rotated through the necessary sites to get back down into basement if needs be. For here, at least, it's going to be Cash and CC. A pretty dug-in defense coming out. The Kaid featuring, once again, the Wamai on side 2. No mirror, though. Something we did see SANDBOX using a lot. NIP not quite buying into the same idea.
Certainly all smiles on the side of SANDBOX still, which you like to see. You know, you've got to be enjoying things to win them, so they may have an opportunity to fight back in. We'll see. It's going to be 6-2 as we stand at the minute. As we said, CCTV and Cash will be our next site of choice. Last time around, it was NIP that were able to get the win on this site. Oh, no, sorry, we haven't seen them defend it yet. I'm thinking about the last time they attacked it, in which they were able to get the win. But we're going to see them come out with the defense and see if they can do anything differently. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a focus on Garage for them, but an interesting difference in how they're going to hold on to Garage. Instead, they're going to play the player down in Lounge, and Muzi, for the time being, he's on that basement floor, just looking to make a nuisance. Now he's back up onto the catwalk.
Yeah, just trying to get a bit cheeky there in case any drones come rifling in. You'll see this on things like Oregon if you're defending basement. Players will play on the north side stairs, kill a drone, then fall back down to site. It's free real estate. You get to kill a drone and you don't lose your life for it. Why wouldn't you take that wherever you can? So yeah, back up on catwalk and he'll be sitting there much prettier and safer than he would be down on the floor of Garage. Another big... This is the 3rd kill that Static has got like this in this series. Might even be 4, because I think he got 1 on Kafe. It could have been 2, but I know he's got at least 2 on this map so far. These nades from below, it's not conventional entry play, but it's entry play all the same.
Doesn't matter. You get that opener, and if anything, he's done it without risk. No challenge from Pino able to be made onto Static, and that leaves us very quickly 5 versus 4. Psycho is going to be a pivotal player here on this defense, so, and it's something that SANDBOX really do have to deal with. If they don't move Psycho out of his position, he's going to continue just rotating back and forwards into Garage, and he's going to make a real nightmare for them. They're not going to be able to aggress in. Now then, Static sees him and gets the shots. That is the defense opened up from SANDBOX. That is what they needed, and now it's time to start powering forward, putting the pressure on. Muzi cannot continue to play that aggressive now that Psycho's gone. No surprise we see him drop down to the basement to try and escape, and it's going to be all on the 2 defenders in sight for the time being to try and hold on to things.
Kamikaze just like
peek that.
No, he didn't even peek. He like slows peeked it. He kind of slowly stepped out and then kind of edge, do I go, do I not? And then I think for Charlie was like, is he really just standing there? And took a few free shots onto him. Muzi finding one back onto Envy at the very least, but you feel that pressure starting to build up on NIP. A couple of members slightly low on HP, but now you've got to deal with the roaming Muzi, who might give you a little bit of a headache.
I think that's something that SANDBOX had failed to recognise earlier in the round, was the fact that Muzi had disappeared, but they now know exactly where he is. Nova wasn't sure whether it was bar or bathroom, but as Muzi tries to make that push, he certainly sees him. Muzi's managed to escape down the main stairs back into the basement though, and he's going to continue to try and be a difficulty here, but they're using the utility against him. Static's got the shield in front of him. He knows where Muzi's coming from. He's going to win this fight nice and easy. 3 kills on the round, 2 left to find. If he can start pushing up the rear stairs, Kamikaze will find Nova, but it's now 1 versus 3. It's all up to him. Shut down as Shaol finds a double. That's going to be SANDBOX taking another round, but now got that difficulty of heading back to Church and Arsenal.
If they get over this round though, suddenly things get very interesting, and it's almost like a cast a curse. In fact, it was. I said Static, not having a great game. His entry's not been good compared to the 4-1 that he had on Kafe. His kills haven't been up there, and then he walks up and finds himself with 3K in the round, with Shaol picking up the last 2. It was a good round, but a lot of it was on individual members pushing into key positions, namely Static, with a freebie from below, fighting the player around the back of the shield that clearly NIP just weren't ready for someone to come through the stage soft wall. It's one of those. And I think we'll have a brief moment here as well to get some tech issues sorted out. As I'm seeing a member of NIP has dropped out for a second.
The big question now for SANDBOX, in my mind, is or for NIP rather, actually. I was going to say for SANDBOX is how do you deal with that logistics position? But the question really is on NIP, and do you play in that position again? And if they don't play in that position again, then what does the defence look like? Because it rotated around that last time. It was all about keeping them off kitchen hatch and preventing them playing in there. So if Pino can't play that, which I would suggest it's going to be very risky for Pino to play there because of how much damage he did from that position last time, SANDBOX are just going to throw utility into logistics to try and clear him out. So for me, they've got to do something different. And what's that going to be from NIP?
Well, time will tell. Again, for me, it wasn't down to anything kind of massively team-wide. When they played as a team and they played these 1v3s, 3v1s, they've looked fantastic. It's just in the last couple of rounds, they've got a little bit too comfortable and happily taken 1v1s, or not so happily, but allowed 1v1s to take place. And the strength is in the team. We've seen it across both maps from both teams. Individual hero plays are few and far between when they come out successfully. You need to play better as a team, I think, and that's the big difference for NIP. This tech pause does give them a little bit of time to have that conversation. They've just loaded back into the server, so we'll get things back underway in just a moment. And sure enough, Ace, it is that Church Arsenal site that you mentioned. Yeah,
it was almost certainly going to be, I think, after the strength that they showed there last time around. But like I say, they're not, I would expect, going to be able to do the same thing in the same way because SANDBOX are going to be prepared for it. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. We'll see just exactly what differences they're bringing in, how they are going to mix things up. But as you said, as we're not going to be too long until we get back into things. So it currently sits at NIP 6-3. If you've joined us after the beginning of this matchup, you will may not know that we are 1-0 in favour of SANDBOX. I did say that correctly. They came in and took the first map off NIP, the world champions, lost on Kafe, so the advantage currently still sits with SANDBOX.
If SANDBOX play another series and play Kafe, which isn't far from imagining it'll be a thing, they'll be 10-0 on that map. A 10 win streak since September. Insane. Probably going to be a case for a number of teams where they're thinking, do we ban away our weak map or ban away their super strong map? Because again, unbeaten in almost 10 is an insane stat line to have. For NIP, if they win this one, they go 6-0 on Clubhouse in September. So again, not a bad stat line to have, but they've got to stop a resurging SANDBOX here. They've had the time to chat. It is down on the site that they've already won once here on the defensive half. They can close things out here and now. Otherwise, I get the sense that overtime is on the way.
Don't say it, Des. Don't say the word. Not yet. We've got a few more rounds to go. Kamikaze deploying a shield immediately inside of Church. That's going to allow the player that plays inside of Blue Corridor to rotate back in safely and also challenge onto Motor Door. So for me, this looks already like a setup potentially that is going to revolve a little bit more around holding on to the bottom floor than it is fighting from the top floor.
Yeah, I mean, on the sheer case of seeing a Smoke, a Goyo and a Mira just scream site play, right? Plus a shield being brought along too, as we've already seen placed down. I guess where I'm not so much nervous, but somewhat concerned is so often you'll see like a stack of ADS is placed inside of blue on the back of the generator. It's why it's called stacks sometimes. And without the Aegir on side, you're relying solely on the Wamais, and you need those to be placed elsewhere. If Psycho's playing in here by himself, okay, it's not going to be the end of the world, but just keep a close eye on that. I'm keen to see where these grenades fly in from the Iana and the Sledge.
Straight into the action phase then. We've got Muzi on blue stairs at the moment. Window's going to be opened up behind him, and he's going to dip away. He's not going to want to throw his life on that one. Chayo just raining a couple of shots in. Just a little shot across the bow, just force that Goyo away. They were likely aware of his presence in and around that area. We can see how quickly SANDBOX are moving in here. There's Static already ticking off that step one, essentially, of clearing out top floor. He's in there, boots on the ground, job done. He's now drawn in ahead of him into the mid floor, and it's going to be a matter of 10-15 seconds before SANDBOX recognise that there are no defenders anywhere other than site, and that is the big difference from NIP this time around. There is going to be no vertical pressure from them. They are relying solely on locking down the site from the site.
If you're wondering where the fifth man was, he is inside of dirt. It's Kamikaze position right at the very top of it as well, just waiting to see if that wall does get opened up, because if not, you can afford to play around there. C4 coming out as Julio onto MV Taylor. The Sledge is removed. That's not the operator you want to be losing, although you can now turn and look towards the breaching rounds for the ace to start getting that floor opened up.
Great play there to start things off from Julio. As you say, just maximising that utility. We're going to have hatches getting opened up now. Harper's just going to give a little bit of access into blue corridor there. Maybe make it a little bit more difficult for them to feel like they can hold on to that. But for the time being, they will remain. I think we've just got Pino off to the left of this location, if I'm right in thinking. No, he's a little bit deeper into the map now. Muze just going to be holding on to that blue corridor mirror, but just conscious of the kitchen hatch that's been opened as well. Is he going to take a peek? No, he thinks better of it, and it's a good job that he did, otherwise Shaol likely has that locked down. Oh, that could be big.
Nah. He's got three, and he can pick it back up again. It's okay. We can all relax and breathe a sigh of relief, as I'm sure SANDBOX are as well. Not going to lose out that one. All the hatches have been opened up. Of course, again, slightly limited on what floors they can open up. And with that one Selma in back pocket, they could look towards getting that onto the church wall, but they'll have to clear the mute jammer off first. Here comes Shaol. Which side is the man going to come on? He's looking towards the left, sees the head, goes for the spray, but can't quite find... Oh! Goes for the spray. LMG. OP! Finds 2 kills. A second one through the soft wall. That's unbelievable that Shaol has picked that up.
Childs opened them up like a can opener there. The first one, you got to say, there was a little bit of luck involved just in the movement of the Goyo across his scope as he was already firing, but then the long shot through to Church was absolutely wonderful. NIP managed to find themselves 2 though. 3 versus 3 now, 10 seconds to go. It's going to be a hatch drop. Harper has the diffuser in hand. It's all about Nova on the cover. Kills coming either direction, and Nova has to hold on to it. It's been downed. It's 1v1. Time runs out. NIP do just enough to scrape themselves through Clubhouse in the very last seconds of that round.
Ooh, spicy. I mean, for a second it looked like a SANDBOX comeback, but we have now seen both teams win their preferential map and their win streaks continue. Again, 9 for SANDBOX in a row on Kafe, 6 in a row for NIP on Club. You can see exactly why they wanted to go to those 2 maps, Tim.
You can. You know, they've both come out. What a strong start from each team to kick us off on the Six Invitational stream here. We've seen the best of them, and now we're going to see a brawl on Bank.
The Bank Brawl, we'll call it. The day of slaughter on day 1, and it's only the first series. We've still got 4 more to go today, and 5 days of this. It's only going to get even crazier. So, we'll take a quick break. You guys get yourself some popcorn, because Bank is going to be spicy. We'll see you in a few minutes. Get an electric charge down onto that wall, as you might find yourself...
Drop the bomb. 10 seconds left. Lay the nest.
And we are back at the Six Invitational 2022. You join us for this, the NIP versus SANDBOX game. It's the opener here on the A-Stream, and we have seen what could be the starts of a classic so far. SANDBOX came out with a good win to kick us off on Kafe, and then NIP moving on to Clubhouse have brought it back. It was their map choice, and they showed exactly why, getting themselves strongly locked into things. They closed it out in pretty quick fashion against SANDBOX, and that sees us now on one map each. We're going to be coming back to the final map, which is going to be on Bank, to decide just exactly how this one finishes.
Hi, Tim.
You all right there, Des?
That toilet is a marathon away.
For anybody wondering, it's no surprise that I opened things up there and just filled for a minute.
It absolutely is. I'd rather declare it, but here we are back indeed. Bank, the next map to come up on 4. Some lovely scores on the doors there for us as well. We spoke about the entry difference coming in for Static. Both of those coming in, by the way, from those nade kills from below. I touched on them, we saw them on Kafe. Now we've seen them coming through onto Club. Does it continue on Bank? It depends really, because obviously they're attacking downstairs, you're not looking towards too much soft flooring. If they're attacking on towards the upstairs and getting on the ground floor, different conversation.
Yeah, it certainly is, like you say. One way or another, we are one map apiece. We're heading into a decider here, and honestly, I've got a feeling that this last map is going to be very, very close. I don't think we're going to see somebody run away with it. There's a little bit of me in my mind thinking LATAM teams historically have always been so good on Bank, regardless of whether it's the rework or not. I feel like NIP maybe have a little bit of an edge, especially when you put that in line with the fact that they've just won the second map as well. But there was a few cracks there for me from NIP. There was a couple of issues, a couple of instances where SANDBOX were able to sort of exploit those weaknesses and get themselves a couple of rounds to start fighting back in towards things. So you know that there is definitely a chance for SANDBOX here.
Absolutely. We said it at the very start. If it gets through to 3, it's anyone's guess. NIP take it 2-0, or we get to Bank and it's a very split map, because the maps they've played so far are going to have been one of their big strengths. If you look at Bank, it's a mid-table map for both teams in terms of preference and how they deliver, for example. So I'm quietly excited.
Well, it's middle of the road. There's no two ways about it. Like I say, my thoughts about it are nothing more than just historical. Yeah, LATAM have always been sort of good on Bank. But it's absolutely anybody's. Absolutely anybody's.
APAC can be good on Bank too.
I'm certain that they can be. I'm certain that they will be.
Yeah, it's one of those coming into it. Key players, again, I know I've mentioned Static there and about how his entries came from the below nades that he used, both of them in that game. He was very quiet until the last couple of rounds. Those stats, it sounds harsh, making it look better than maybe his performance was on that game.
Yeah,
I even said yesterday, a big story for me in this whole competition was Static has improved as an entry over the last 12 months, but do you put him up there with the likes of Pino, Shaiko, thinking about the other great entries around the world? Not really, and he needs to go big in this game. We've already seen Pino have a prolific couple of maps. That first map, he was 8-0 until he finally got brought down.
Yeah, Pino's that sort of player. He's a confidence player.
Even on the sledge, you'll still get entries all day.
If he gets a couple of entry kills, you'll see him that's it. It's then consistent throughout the game. He'll pick up another. And also within the round, once he gets that entry, there's a second, there's a third coming, and he's just that sort of player that thrives off it. If you can shut him down, however, he will struggle sometimes to force his way into it.
On my little marathon, by the way, I did run past both teams. I saw them both going to the toilet as well, and I want to say the SANDBOX guys looked more jovial than the NIP guys, and maybe that's because NIP are just super dialed into the game, but it was all smiles for SANDBOX as well, at least from what you can see behind a mask, admittedly. But they were laughing and joking with each other a lot more. For NIP, there were some intense discussions going on. Maybe because for them, they feel dropping a map in this game is a big kicker for them. Again, coming into the competition, SANDBOX are probably, pegged as being one of the weaker teams here. You would expect a 2-0 as the defending world champions, and they haven't found it. So maybe that mental game starts to weigh in now that we're going into map 3.
Well, that's it. The expectations on both of these teams are wildly different, and that is going to play into the mental approach that you take to the game. Like you say, SANDBOX, they're coming in here. It sort of feels a little bit like, they're underdogs. Like every win is a bonus to them. So yeah, let's just go and have a good time. Ultimately, what does it matter to SANDBOX? Really, if they lose this game now 2-1.
You'll take the point.
So they've took a point from the reigning world champions in the opening game.
Yep. You're not going to complain, are you?
Not the end of the world, is it? So there's no pressure on SANDBOX here, whereas NIP, they're chasing that back-to-back.
I mean, look back again at Sweden to reference what happened to SANDBOX last time. They made it through after being tied on points with Vitality, but because they've beaten Vitality twice, they beat Dark Zero once, lost to Dark Zero once, and lost to Team 1 twice, they still made it through. You do not have to win all of your best of threes to be through in a strong position. And I guess worth referencing, because we didn't talk about this with the format too much earlier on, it's worth noting, as long as you finish in 1st or 4th in your group, you make it through to playoffs. 1st place gets a 1-round bye, 2nd and 3rd play in the upper bracket 1st round, and the 4th place team goes straight into the lower bracket. So again, any point matters here. Every single map that you can win can make a huge difference. But with that said, we're into our 3rd map of this series, really getting the full run of the mill on our 3 maps here in this best of 3 format. Zero going to be the first ban coming away from SANDBOX. Interesting, because that was a pick they were pioneering for quite a while in APAC at the start of last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's more information utility as we discussed, but Zero, also has a good few options on the utility lineup as well.
Yep.
So, there's certainly reasons there for that.
I was just looking back at the stats as well for NIP to see how often they played this operator, and yep, it is there for the vast majority of rounds. Yep. Probably about 65-70% of the rounds they have played that op, so a target ban coming in. The Jackal coming away just screams to me, right, let's get out there and cause some chaos on the defensive side. Still sticking with the Valkyrie ban that we've seen banned away throughout all 3 maps, that Intel game being denied away, which leaves SANDBOX with this 4th and final ban ace.
Final defender will come through in just a second. Also, they're having a little bit of a think about it, using that full-time allotment before locking in who will be our final ban. Jackal is going to be an interesting one. We've got Maestro as the final defensive ban there, so again the utility just being taken away in terms of the information. Jackal's always an interesting one on Bank because it's really going to open up that roam game potentially defensively. Nomad, we could see a little bit of play just to try and cut off the flanks, but ultimately I would expect to see defenders now getting out into the map and just really trying to make things difficult. And it's interesting that it was NIP that have chosen that ban. I think we're going to see Psycho, Pino, Muzi, that triple just getting out there trying to really make life difficult for SANDBOX. So we're going to be heading in towards round number 1. It's going to be NIP starting us off on the attack. They're going to be attacking onto the top floor here, and nothing too unusual in terms of the lineups.
No, we're seeing the Vigil coming out, which is exciting because it means roam game, in much the same way that I thought we'd see that coming out of NIP on their defensive side, given the Jackal ban. I'm glad that we're seeing SANDBOX also leaning into that. So for Static, being that entry man will be one of the first to contest. You've got Shyle and Envy getting out on the roam as well. My only difficulty with this site, and it has always been the weakness and the frustration amongst pros in the scene, is the window play. Those windows are so ridiculously powerful up on the north side that's what you'll be looking out for. Keep a close eye on what control you get, and knowing that it's an APAC team on the defense, any jump outs or crazy hijinks that you see coming in to try and disrupt that play.
Going to have Envy Taylor just setting up the deployable shield. We see this one quite commonly just outside of stock now. It's going to allow the challenge on both angles from the player who eventually sets themselves up, whether that be Envy Taylor or not. Interestingly, a second blade on the door as well, so the swing could come from 2 places. You're going to have Shyle more than likely looking over stock windows, able to challenge up towards Janitor, but then a player inside of Janitor who could swing out behind that deployable shield. So very difficult here for NIP to play into from the square skylight.
Another spicy little stat for you there, Ace. 100% of attacking rounds SANDBOX have played Jackal so far in their history on this map. So you can see why the ban has come through, not just to enable NIP to play a bit more freely, but also because, again, it's a key part of SANDBOX's attack. But think back to the Flores on Kafe. It didn't phase them at all having that taken away. I'm keen to see how it shapes up here. Static, again, the main entry man that I keep on talking about, goes down to Kamikaze. A little bit different to see the backline support player being the one that gets the entry kill onto the entry, but here we are.
You're in LATAM now, Des. These support players, they will come in and find frags as well. You'd better believe it. Static taken out on the Vigil, and that is going to be a big starter for NIP. Vigil, of course, one of those really tricky operators. If he's in and around the map, especially with somebody like Jackal unavailable, can be very difficult to track down. Ooh, we just see a Yokai drone taken out in front of us there as well. Going well so far for NIP. Not halfway into the round. They've got a Yokai drone gone. They've got a Vigil gone. They're starting to get the map control that they need to control square skylight and think about getting the walls breached, and they're making good time in doing it.
Psycho sat downstairs around open area at the minute, I think waiting for someone to step into Janitor. He's got the nades on side, of course, to make good use of. Both of them still in back pocket and could provide a pretty good threat. But what we need NIP to do first is the trigger to that is to force Charles away from these shields, playing on the long kind of like, it's not quite 90, do you want to call it 45? Either way, playing on the corner shield just outside of stock, that's what you want to force away. In fact, one nade gets eaten up on the south side, just heard that trigger go off from the ADS. Second one comes in and Charles has already stepped away towards vending machine. Nova going down, that's the Yokai's lost and the Vigil gone.
Envy Taylor does manage to follow the same path as Nova, but won't lose his life in doing so. But it just shows how well NIP are controlling this site and the windows, making it very, very difficult. Envy trying to find some sort of challenge out there, but unable to so far. Harper is in an important position here. They need to deal with him and deal with him there. Charles, Psycho moves in underneath, recognising that key position, takes the man down off the balcony, and that now opens them up to think about getting the diffuser in and getting it down on the ground.
This is feeling a lot like Clubhouse at the minute, Tim, where NIP's attack is ferocious. Psycho almost going down, Kamikaze too, but both escaping with a slither of HP. Envy also on a slither will find Kamikaze out, Charles another, but it's a 1 versus 3 for Envy, and I can't see him walking out with a 4K. He finds another as the clock starts running down. Envy's on the below, going to work his way up through the front lobby here. Julio waits him at the top of the stairs to the right, has no idea, and it's a closeout in round 1 for NIP.
Big first round from them, and I like NIP there, how they just managed to pick that defence apart. It was like they just dealt with one player at a time. It started with the Vigil and it just moved through the Echo, the man on the balcony. It was just one after another being dropped one at a time, and I like that from NIP, just dealing with matters in succession as they needed to get themselves the round. So that's going to be them heading into round 2 with a strong start now. Let's not forget they've just had a great performance on Clubhouse. They move into Bank, they take the first round on attack, and they can start pushing forward from there. SANDBOX, it's time to start finding some rounds before this gets away from you.
It is indeed. We already saw how that happened on Clubhouse when it went down to a 6-1 and it was like, cool, you get 2 rounds, but the damage has already been done. It's a little bit too late for any kind of magical comeback to really come into effect. But I'll give him a small lean. That first sight, as we mentioned, not quite the best. Now we step down into open area, which I would wager has become arguably the most popular site on this map. A lot of teams actually opting to start here and play it more often than not, or wherever it's available, they will step into it, because you have that idea of, okay, they've got to take top floor, then they've got to start looking at the downstairs as well. You can think of it as being quite a lot like attacking into reading on Kafe, where you have to clear top floor, bar and cocktail, and then worry about the site below it as well. So it adds a few more steps for the attackers to have to work out and figure out, but equally as the defenders, you then have more ground to hold and defend and challenge, for example, so it does require a little bit more coordination.
Moosey's just managed to squirrel himself away a drone inside a site there. It's not been picked up and could be dangerous in the late round, particularly if we go towards a stock hatch drop, which is a potential option for NIP here, just to get straight underneath that hatch and try and get the diffuser down. Now Shio all the way down in the basement on the Oryx for the time being. Anybody bringing an Oryx along is generally doing so because they want to be mobile inside of the round, so he's certainly one to keep an eye on over the next minute or two. He's going to be heading up to the top floor and just try and make it difficult for NIP, I think, to get themselves inside of the map here.
See what damage Charles can do on the Oryx as well. Not a pick that we see all that often, but these days you tend to see it paired up with a Thunderbird, because of course the downside to Oryx is using his ability to charge through a wall will inflict some damage on you. It's free to use in terms of the amount of health you lose if you're using it just to move quite quickly, which some players will use it for. And of course, the hatch hopping ability is very valuable if you're trying to roam later into the round. But the consideration is if you lose HP, that can be the difference between life or death in a gunfight, so the Thunderbird helps offset that quite a lot. Here, at least for the side of SANDBOX, they're not bringing a Thunderbird, it's just the Oryx in isolation, so you're probably going to see Charles just sat around the elevators and looking to work his way up and down hatches as he goes, rather than worrying about opening up any walls for his team.
NIP have got top floor control gained now, so that's step 1 completed. They can start opening up the angles with Pino on the sledge, which is what they will do. Now it's about moving defenders around inside his site, but also clearing utility as well. Clearing yourself a path towards that final execution. That's what they're going to be looking for. Interestingly, SANDBOX have dropped at least one, I think, back down to the basement, so we'll see how they factor later in the round. I'm not sure if they've maybe made their way back up. It was the Oryx that looked like he was heading in that direction. Envy Taylor nearly getting himself caught out inside of Tellers there. They're aware of his position. He's likely going to be held in place. He tries to get himself back to the fight, but he can't quite make it as Pino just predicts the rotation there and gets the kill for the entry onto Envy Taylor.
Again, it's Clubhouse all over again. NIP are just really good at isolating these roamers and forcing a 2 or a 3 versus 1. They keep up this kind of habit, they are going to roll their way through this game the same way Psycho has just bowled through Static and Shyle. 2 more kills in the round, of 5 versus 2, making a 4 versus 1 as Muzi picks up a TK. There is nothing going SANDBOX's way in this round. It looks to be a 2-0. Call it a flawless round if you will. NIP are on fire.
Muzi there picking up those final 2 kills. Great plays from him, and like you say, NIP looking pretty good on Bank so far. They just again showed a great command, a great understanding of that site. For me, SANDBOX were maybe a little bit too passive on there. They had the Oryx up in the elevator for about the first 30-40 seconds or so, but he just dipped away. They gave away top floor control, and that was where the kills started coming from. It cut off the rotation for Envy Taylor. It just made life very difficult for SANDBOX, and I think realistically they need to be trying to get themselves out into the map a bit more when they're playing these lower level floors. They need to be making sure that NIP don't just get full control so quickly.
Absolutely, and this might be a good time for that conversation to take place. Is right, guys, things are falling apart at the seams very quickly, so let's see how we can fix this one moving forwards down into the basement. Again, my biggest concern already, I've said it in both rounds, it feels like Clubhouse again, where NIP are just very good at isolating out individual players, and I say pause, it's a quick disconnect coming in. Let's get an issue sorted out with Nova's PC, and we will be straight back into game as soon as we can. But for NIP, it's brimming with the same confidence we saw on Club, and that is dangerous and scary for SANDBOX.
Well, there's 2 things happening. NIP are brimming with the same confidence that they did on Club, but SANDBOX, they've tailed off Des. There's no 2 ways about it. You know, this isn't the same team that we saw winning back-to-back rounds on Kafe.
Nope.
They're just not playing as well. Like I say, they're not showing any aggression. They're playing very passively. They're not committing to the roam of the top floor there on that last round, and it's giving NIP too much space. But the problem is when they're playing confidently and you give them space, look at what they're going to do to you. They're just going to come in there and start finding kills. This looks more like the NIP that we saw at the first few rounds of Kafe, where, you know, there wasn't really too much contention in those gunfights, and SANDBOX, they've got to find a way to compete. They've got to find a way to get in there and make life difficult for NIP. I'd like to see in this round, they're going down to the basement. Let's have a nice commitment to the roam. Let's get out there. Let's not fall back as soon as you push. Let's try and take some gunfights and see if they can get something started.
I was just looking at the attacker win rates and the defensive win rates of both teams as well. NIP actually have a much better attacking win rate on this map of 63% to their 48% defensive win rate. They're not the best defenders on this map, kind of what we saw on Kafe, so maybe we'll see a blend of Kafe and Club sneaking in. And for those of you out there that love things like this, the attacking win rate for SANDBOX is 38.5%. Their defensive win rate,
oh dear,
bang on 69%.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Nice.
So we're not quite seeing...
Nice.
Stop raising your eyebrows at me, Des. Stop it.
Nice.
Stop it. We're not seeing the stats being followed for SANDBOX. They're not able to show that same defensive performance that they have done. Like I said,
if they win these next 4, it stays true.
5 seconds to go.
They'll be at about 66%. 66.66%.
we're not seeing SANDBOX able to hold on to that
Shut
defensive
up.
win rate that we've seen them do before. Honestly, it is extremely unlikely that they come back and win 4 rounds here and turn this around to be a positive half for them. We would expect NIP to be picking up at least half. NIP, if they get 4, by their stats, they're going to be more than happy with that. That should be able to see out the game for them. Psycho, I love this. He's on the knock. He's got down there. He's just waiting to push into garage. He's checking if there's anybody ahead of him, and this could be absolutely devastating.
I know exactly what pun you and I are waiting to make here if it really comes to life. He is in, but sound alarms, both of them as well to cover either side. Really, really smart, but knock, she's at the front door. Sadly, no one's there to answer. They're backed away, kept themselves safe, but at least SANDBOX know now what it is Psycho's trying to achieve.
They do. Again, majority of operators are being forced back towards that bottom floor, but we do still have Shyle and Envy active out in the map, and I want to see them stay that way. Make it difficult for NIP. Don't let them get that vertical control. We've got Harper on blue stairs as well. So NIP not picking apart this defense quite as quickly as they have done previously. There you go. That's what we wanted. Envy Taylor comes in with a big nitro on Tapino, takes the opener for SANDBOX, and that's that roam game, Des. That's that aggression that I wanted them to keep. Keep yourself active out in the map. Don't let NIP settle in. Muzi's going to find Shyle. 4v4. Envy Taylor's all alone on the roam now.
Oh, surely that should have been a kill coming in onto Psycho as well. Had a good half a second of looking at him, but didn't pull the trigger. Psycho likely going to back away here and look to go for an alternative angle of attack. Now slowly seeing that drone count whittle down. Just 3 left here with still half the round to play. It's not an ideal situation for NIP. We're going to have to try and make this work blind, and sadly going in blind is the worst idea. Envy finding Julio out. It's a 4 versus 3 for SANDBOX, and finally, we might start to see some life being breathed into the APAC team.
A better, stronger commitment to the roam, certainly paying dividends at the minute, but Psycho, he manages to get in and find Static and Nova, and that leaves a difficult position now. There's 1 man left alive on site for SANDBOX versus the 3 of NIP. There's an opportunity here. If they seek it, if they find it, if they take it quickly, they could get themselves into sight here and pressure Harper. He's going to be caught out on the blue stairs as the hatch has opened. It's going to be difficult for him to rotate back, so that effectively leaves nobody on site here. But SANDBOX, they've got Envy Taylor just trying to work on the flank. Harper's going to lose his life as soon as he moves out of that staircase, you can guarantee it. But Envy Taylor somehow has managed to get himself back down towards site, Des. But Psycho, he knows he's holding him. As soon as he steps out, Psycho's going to find that kill. He knows his man is there. He can't find the shots, but there they come. That's going to be Envy Taylor shut down, and this is all but over for SANDBOX in round 3.
They should have known about this one, but Harper's coming back in on a slither of HP. He's got to land a couple of big shots here because he's against 3. Finds 1 head. Can he find the next as well? Plant is going down. Now we're back into a 2 versus 1. They've got about 40 seconds to work with here, and again, Harper is 1 bullet from death. This is Siege on hard mode. This is where it gets tough against the defending world champions to swing this round back. One's hit the deck, and he's got to swing his way through, runs straight into a nade from Psycho, who tore them asunder in that round.
It's all dead to Psycho.
It was, and the scariest thing is they knew he was there. Twice they had the same spot where he was looking at the left door that leads up main stairs, but they didn't shoot him. They didn't pull the trigger and get the kill. He's got away with it twice. He's ran away from playing on ramp to come back to ramp later on and get 2 kills. He was just an absolute terror, and SANDBOX had no idea how to deal with him.
I feel for Envy Taylor in that round, because if you're coming into it, I said, let's have a better commitment to the roam, SANDBOX, and that's exactly what Envy Taylor delivered. He got himself 2 kills, he was mobile around the map, he was making life difficult, and then the players back on site couldn't deal with Psycho pushing in, and that was a big problem, because when those couple of kills come in, you've got your Ella stuck on blue stairs, Envy Taylor has no choice but to rotate back down, and it just changes the dynamic of the round. It flips it on its head. It was a pivotal moment, and it's unfortunate for SANDBOX, because I felt like they got the first half of the round, I won't say completely right, but a lot better than they have done so far.
Well, on the bank, merry-go-round, we step into the 4th and final site. Tellers and Archives going to be where we go for round number 4. So rather than returning up towards CEO and Lounge, it's going to be the slight step away, which maybe suggests that first round was a bit of a debate coming out from the side of SANDBOX, just thinking, you know what, we know it's not the best site, but we'll play it and see if we can catch you off guard. NIP not shaken at all so far. 3 rounds on the board, and mostly in convincing fashion as well. For SANDBOX, you can feel it start to slip away, but let's not forget that on Kafe they found themselves down 3-1 at one point and still managed to swing things back. NIP's defensive record on this map, not quite the best.
Round number 4 underway then. Hatch and phase, we're still in a lot of droning going on. We're just going to be trying to find the location of those roamers. As I say, NIP not played into this site so far on the attack, so they just need to feel out the SANDBOX defence, see exactly what's set up. But look at that from Muzi Des. He's got himself right into electrical very, very quickly, which gives a direct line of sight into site, and so he could make their lives a misery here if he just holds that and prevents any rotations in and around site. He's been challenged. He just sees the tail end. Oh! Muzi with an absolute beauty onto Harper. That was a worldie of a shot as the man moves across, and he just sprays him down and takes his head off, and that allows access into open area. But Static slams the door in Psycho's face, and that levels us up at 4 versus 4.
And he drops to the basement as well. It's his turn on the Oryx here, getting himself out and about around the map and looking to cause some chaos. Muzi's inside of open area, pushing his way forwards, looking in towards Bleepers, but also towards Archive. So trying to make sure this south side is as safe as can be. Would have seen that Yokai a second ago, but didn't quite have the reaction time to pull the trigger and get it shot out. Would have been painful for Nova, who so far in this game is 0-3, but still providing value in way of information.
Invitational is still out on the roam along with Shayol. As I said, I wanted more commitment to those top floor areas, and they're certainly trying to deliver it here, SANDBOX, and it does seem to be slowing down NIP a little bit, but somehow Kamikaze's managed to work his way underneath that square skylight. He's looking to push in towards site. He's being supported from open area as well. Static, however, is going to find one. Can he find two? Yes, 2 for free as Kamikaze is downed as well. Static's not going to take the risk in trying to chase that kill. He's going to move himself away, but the threat of those blue stairs is surely going to be too much for Kamikaze to be picked up, and Nova it is ultimately that finds that one.
You'll be asking questions about for the dead members of NIP. I know there's only one at the time. Why look at operators and not at drones? Because they would have seen him on the flank drone as well, coming up blue, and strikes a deadly blow towards NIP, bringing down 2 members and leaving us in a 4 versus 2. However, SANDBOX have been not strictly the best at converting big advantages like this. There is still every possibility that we can see them come out on top on the other side. That is NIP, but they lose another man. Pino's in a 1 versus 4. He has no kills to his name so far on this map. I'm not really a betting man, Tim, but I'd say this one's going towards the side of SANDBOX.
Yeah, I would have said the same. There you go. Static steps up and detects a kill. Ultimately, Des, we've got to call it as we see it, and that was unforgivable from NIP on the flank. There's a drone set up at the bottom of the stairs. There's a player who is dead at that point. You gotta have that covered. You can't allow somebody up those blue stairs to be hitting you for 2 kills like that. It was a big mistake.
It was. You can allow it. They've had 3 great
Played very well so far, but the thing is, they're playing against a SANDBOX team that aren't the best that they're going to come up against. So you got to iron it out now.
That's always the fun of international competition.
Got to iron it out now.
Maybe SANDBOX turned out to be one of the best here, and we just have underrated them coming into it. You never know.
Heading into round number 5, Jez, it's going to be 3-1 to NIP right now. SANDBOX have certainly had the moments, I will give you that. At times, they've looked a little bit out of the depth as well in some of these gunfights and in the way that they've controlled the maps, or sort of, failed to control the maps. So SANDBOX, they're going to have a little bit of work to do, but let's not forget, as you said, they've started Siege on hard mode here today. You know, they're coming up against the reigning world champions, an aggressive team in NIP that are going to go looking for kills. It was never going to be an easy start for SANDBOX. It's certainly not over yet, but NIP have got themselves a good advantage, and I throw back to that stat that you gave us earlier, Des. It's an important one to remember, and that is SANDBOX have got a poor attacking win rate on this map, and they are racing towards their attacking half, and it looks like they're going to be behind. So they're going to have to overturn the odds. They're going to have to overturn those historical stats in order to get the win here. It's not going to be easy for them.
No, but then is it SI if it was meant to be easy? Absolutely not. Here we come with the top floor start then for NIP. We've seen them be very, very comfortable getting control of the CEO Lounge area so far. It hasn't looked uncomfortable for them at any stretch or any point in the journey of the last 4 rounds or so. So they can get control here and start getting themselves a ground to start in. They can start smashing the roof open. They can force those roamers back onto site and then look towards closing things out forwards from there.
Pino just sweeping across the top floor. Drones ahead of him. So again, fairly aggressive entry coming in from NIP, but we've seen this sort of pauses every now and again as they come in, and they just have to wait for those few seconds while the information is fed in. Static takes advantage of those few seconds to find a kill onto Julio, who was just playing up on the skylight, I believe, there. So that's going to be the first, and that is a good start for SANDBOX. They need to double down now. They need to keep the pressure on. Don't let NIP settle.
Oh, do find one back, which is great, because if it stayed at a 5 versus 4 and SANDBOX get back to site again, Clubhouse 5s just ring through on the 1 round where it was a 4 versus 5. And it gets a little bit easier for SANDBOX from that point forwards. Balancing's back out into a 4 versus 4. Things aren't too bad, and making it a 4 versus 3 is only one step better. Down goes Harper, the Ella removed, who would have been playing around blue stairs at a later point in the round most likely. And they should be able to get control of this ground floor. Still a couple of roamers here, actually. They've got to be very careful. See the head, but can't quite click it. Shyle down to half HP.
Muzi just keeps gunning on that angle, still will not find Shayol, takes a lot of damage off him, but we find ourselves now 3 versus 3. SANDBOX have got control of site for the time being, but there is now an opportunity. As we can see, they've all been pushed back downstairs, they've all been pushed onto that west side, so NIP can think about getting themselves down into server, established. They've got Kamikaze, they've got the ability to open the wall, they can't play the hatch that they would want to necessarily, but they have plenty to work with here, NIP. They've got the time for the time being, Des, but they need to get moving.
They do. And this is where we saw a bit of a flank come in last time round, if you remember. The man that did it, Harper, is dead in this round, so it's definitely not... Sorry, Charlotte was. He's still alive, but won't be able to get inside a service, given he is 1 on half HP, and 2, there is more drone work coming in from NIP, but time starts to concern me a bit. Bouncing it off of the bomb there, almost finding Charles, but does read the situation, gets out of dodge and keeps himself alive.
27 seconds, NIP trying to just maneuver a position here, and that is going to help them massively as Muzi finds a big kill onto Chayo Nova, just trying to deny from distance, but won't be able to find the angle that he needs.
Oh,
Pino on the cover with a beautiful kill through to the garage. 3 versus 1 now. Diffuser down on the ground as Kamikaze got the plant. It's all up to Static, shut down by Muzi, and that's going to be another attacking round to NIP.
Muzi and Pino, what do you have for breakfast today? I'd love to know, because, God, those shots. First time kill every single time with the bullets coming in from range. SANDBOX just did not stand a chance there. I don't think he would have had the read on the swing coming out from Charles, but connects a wonderful shot, which removes the pressure inside of red, and then steps forward from there, gets the plant down. All too easy for NIP. They sit at 4 on 1, and again, remembering how the stats shape up for NIP on defense, this is looking really good for them to get a 3rd map win.
Certainly is. We're going to be heading back up to the top floor for our final defense from SANDBOX here. It was the first round that we saw them take the top floor. They haven't tried again since, as NIP were able to, for my money, probably the most systematically that we've seen them today pick the defense apart. It was just 1 kill at a time. It was just identify a location and then go in and find that kill. They did it with surgical precision, and it left SANDBOX reeling. It left them not wanting to come back to this top floor, but that is where their final hope stands in this defensive half if they want anything better than a 5-1.
Here's that classic castle setup. Interesting to put the castle barricade onto that window. You don't always really see that. It tends to be on these more curved ones that give you the angles in towards the window repels on the front of bank, for example, nades coming in from ATMs. So a little bit different in terms of the setup, but it does make the area quite secure. So with that one battened up, the window inside the site itself done is looking pretty good. I think you touched on it in the last map as well. Like, castle now having 4 barricades does make for some really interesting setups.
It does. It's just changed the dynamic of the operator a little bit, because we just see a little bit more variation. You know, it's maybe less of a decision now of this window or that window. Do both. And you've just got that little bit of spare utility. Pino straight away making absolutely no bones about getting up onto these windows. Just checking his drone there. I just didn't know if he was going to catch it on the laser gate or not, but keeps it alive for the time being.
On the what, Tim?
To do so on the laser gate, Des. It was the I was waiting for that. It was the first one of Invitational 2022. No doubt the first of many, I would expect.
Sorry, man, I'm getting hard of hearing these days. You have to repeat yourself sometimes.
That's your age, Des.
It is, mate. It is. Let's see how things go, though. They're getting the...
Oh, here we go, here we go!
Smoke's coming, Candela's coming, everything comes in, but Static finds himself a kill. Great shot from Psycho onto Envy, but then they've come behind the cover of smoke here as well. Plant going down, Harper finds one back on the other side, but surely they know. There's the angle, Static finds it. Psycho shuts out, and for NIP, this attack looks to have fallen apart at the dying moment.
You sort of got to give it to them. They're 4-1 up, and they just think, you know, let's give it a go, let's roll the dice, let's have the rush in and see what we can do. Muzi's way around to stock. He's just trying to pressure from an alternative angle here. Him and Julio left trying to pick up the pieces of that failed rush. It was sort of close, you think, in some ways, but Kamikaze was shut down. Psycho went in after a great kill, but they were just too aware of exactly what was happening inside of site, and it was well locked down by SANDBOX. Julio, no option but to repel, shut down as he tries to do so. 1 versus 3. It's all up to Muzi now. He's going to have to find himself an ace, I think, inside of the round.
Static's having a field day this map.
Oh no, Psycho got one.
This and Kafe has been phenomenal for Static. Clubhouse a little bit less so. A lot of it came down to the nade kill. So things are looking up for the entry player for the side of SANDBOX, putting on a great show, even when Charles and Envy might not be up there with him just yet. It's still not really gotten the scoreline they want, but at least a 4-2 half is going to give them something to play off of going into the second. My concern again being their attacking stats aren't all that good. He's got 3 fights to win here. He will find one. The next one being blocked out ever so slightly, but then revealed by a small hole in the wall that Static will close out into a 4K in the round. It's 2 kills at the half, sorry, 2 rounds at the half for SANDBOX.
I think in some ways, you know, SANDBOX can feel quite fortunate there. There was definitely, you know, the opportunity for NIP to win more rounds. If this rush goes differently, you know, they really would have been over very quickly. But I like that SANDBOX were ready for it. They were prepared. You know, they thought that it could be an opportunity, it could be a chance there. In come the Ings, they didn't react badly to it, so it was nice to see from SANDBOX able to get themselves a second. But as I say, their defensive record certainly suggested they might have had a better first half. Their attacking record does not suggest that this will improve in the second half. Only a 39% win rate on attack here on Bank for SANDBOX. They're going to have to overturn it, because right now they need to bump that up from 39 to at least 66%.
Yep. For SANDBOX there, that nice 69% win rate on the defense obviously comes down after a pretty dismal first half. For NIP there, 63.2% attacking win rate goes up ever so slightly, so not a bad show. It's the defensive win rate now that's going to be the issue. About a 50% one so far, 48.6 to be precise. A performance like that will be enough to get them over the finish line and win this map in regulation. So SANDBOX are the ones that you turn to and say, it's time to do something special. And I was going to say, is Julia putting a can trap on either side of the door? I think he was going for a second, then was like, no, bad shout. Double stack, please.
We do see can traps have more an impact now. Obviously, they can be put multiple traps on one door frame rather than the single that you used to be limited to. You would still expect teams at this sort of level to be finding them when they're droning out. It's all part of that process, and they really should be aware of what is ahead of them. But we have seen it catch people out a number of times. Quite often, you'll take the shot onto one and just move through, and there's still more there.
Yep.
Psycho just going to take a couple of little pot shots at people on the rappel. He's going to be pushed here.
Oh!
What a shutdown from Envy Taylor. That is exactly what SANDBOX needed to kick this off. A big entry there from Psycho. Sorry, onto Psycho from Envy Taylor. That's the one eye down, and that is NIP on the back foot in round 7.
And a key man to bring down. Him or Muzi are the two that you're looking for, given their delivery so far on this map. Static finding Pino. This is a wonderful start for SANDBOX, and it's that age-old story of don't judge a game until you've seen the second half, because that side swap can completely change how things play out. It's not a round 1 just yet, but they are 5 versus 3, which is a considerable advantage.
Muzi just trying to hold on to open area for the time being, prevent use of the hatches. Julio going to take a ton of damage and be shut down by Envy. Somehow Muzi manages to find 2 while barely moving his feet, but Nova ultimately from the window gets in and gets the shutdown. It's all up to Kamikaze, the hard support left inside of sight. He's on the Warden, but it's not going to be an easy finish from here. He
had 1-1vx at Sweden. It's a hard stat to try and get on the board sometimes, especially in 1 versus 3s. But this would be a beautiful time for Kamikaze to net a result like that. Nova inside of open area, Envy off on main stairs, and they're still getting on the drones here and taking things slowly. Because why panic? You've still got half a round to play with, lads. Don't worry about speeding things up. If nothing else, slow it down. Find the man, get the plant down, whatever it is you got to do. This one should be a SANDBOX round win, and then it goes to 4 and 3. That's when things get spicy.
Well, that's it. You look at this and you think somehow SANDBOX have kept themselves in touch once again, even when NIP were running strong, were 4-1 up. Are we going to see a repeat of Kafe here, Des? Let's not forget, this is map 3. This is the one to decide who takes the majority of the points. Kamikaze ripping the head off Envy Taylor's shoulders on the main stairs there. 45 seconds left to go. It's 1 versus 2. We see the Warden using that ability to see through the smoke, but no, Nova, he sees right through the game plan and he shuts the man down as he peeks around the stairs. That's going to close it out. SANDBOX 4-3, somehow just 1 round behind.
Onto Muzi inside of open area. Again, a brilliant 3v1 setup coming in. Yes, Muzi found 2 kills off the back of it, but it was a good bit of team play coming in from the side of SANDBOX. Muzi caught reloading and dead from there. Same with the closing kill coming out into Kamikaze. 1 coming up through ramp, 1 coming down main stairs. You can't look in both places at once, and sure enough, SANDBOX get the shutout. For both teams, again, I'll give it to them. The trade play has been fantastic in that game. We've seen this missing at a number of international events, and especially in league-based play, but it's all really starting to come together now these teams are getting on LAN.
Going to be heading up to CEO. It's going to be a top floor hold for NIP as they decide not to double down in the basement. They don't want to take the chances of being picked apart again. And I like that on SANDBOX's first attack, they basically did the same to NIP as NIP did on their first attack, which was they just went in there and they picked them apart one at a time. They were unfortunate to lose a couple of men to Muzi, but let's be honest, any team in the world can suffer that fate when he is finding shots like he is today. 13-4 in this map. He's absolutely going off at the minute, and SANDBOX need to continue to find a way to shut him down, and throwing bodies at him will not be it.
No, but Static is keeping almost pace with him as well. A couple of kills behind, sat on 11. So again, the player that I commented on saying not quite one of the strongest entries in the world is definitely putting on a show against some of the world's best here in NIP. It's a good sign for what's to come for SANDBOX throughout this competition. Even when Charles currently being sat on 1 and 5 is not the kind of delivery that you're hoping for. Setting up then here inside of the white corridor, you can see them with the Kanto walls reinforced off, a shield in front of it, plus a shield facing off up towards square. So definitely a hold out in the corridor being the main game plan here for NIP, and for SANDBOX their focus will be breaking that one open and getting control of the corridor.
Muzi, keep an eye on him. He's just roaming underneath at the minute. He's in open area. He's on the Wamai. I think he's possibly been drawn out by Nova there, so SANDBOX may well be aware of his position, but the question is always how do you deal with them, especially when he's got Pino supporting him with the vector of Goyo as well. It is definitely something that they need to deal with underneath. Of course, Pino with Nitro in hand as well, so he's not going to move unless he's forced. Shayo already stacking up in position to potentially start doing that. He's going to be sending the Twitch drone in, just looking for any utility that needs clearing out, as well as operators.
Really looking for, I believe, the Wamai Magnets and the Yokais here as well. Get them off the board and you can start eating those nades into open air and hoping to find a man. See the head pop up, a great shot from Static. And it's the two players. Have you broke your leg there in watching that, Ace? You look a little bit unstable, mate. So at NIP, Shyle finds another. And these two, Static and Muzi, are just going blow for blow at each other.
Static did not only sit Muzi down there, he sat me down as well with it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. What an unbelievable reflex shot coming in from Static. 5 versus 3. And once again, there's SANDBOX have woken up, and they are absolutely starting to cut through NIP right now. This looks easy for them, and the way that the momentum in this game, Des, has just shifted from one team to the other has been unreal. It's as if they just completely drop off the face of the earth, and then they come back and they're the best team in the world. It's amazing.
It's crazy how low HP Kamikazes. I thought Static would find him with a nade from below. It wasn't quite the case, but it's found by Nova. Wasn't Nova. Who found him and where from? I'm not sure what's put him down there, but he is down nonetheless, which leaves Julio in a 1 versus 5. He's going through smoke, and they see him coming out. Okay, it was a nade from Envy. Great vertical play, because we commented on this earlier on, you know. You don't get too many chances on bank to make use of nades from below unless you are attacking into CEO. The one round that they are defending CEO, you've got Static, you've got Envy making great use of nades from below to dish out some damage and get another round on the board. That's 2 back-to-back for SANDBOX. We're at 4 and 4, and NIP plus NIP fans are going to be sweating.
Certainly are. We're just going to have a quick time out whilst we get one of the players back into the lobby. I think there's just been a little issue, so we won't be too long at all. But NIP, they need to sort something out here, Des. You know, we commented coming in that the track record suggested SANDBOX's attacks weren't always the most successful on bank, but right now, NIP have got absolutely nothing to front up with them. You know, we expected a 50-50 win rate from them. That's not what we've seen at all so far on the defence for NIP. It should have been an easy closeout from 4-2 up, but absolutely not. SANDBOX not allowing anything to be easy. Are we on a timeline here, Des, where the reigning world champions lose their opening game to SANDBOX Gaming?
Which tournament was it where NIP had a really rough group stage? It was Mexico, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did not have a good time. In Sweden, it was better. But I think I also recall a similar story probably at SI last year where it just wasn't quite, you know, the dominant performance you wanted to see. And we all said, wait until you get to playoffs and you see them going through those best of threes, they'll shine. So now the question is, what's weighing in more here? The best of 3 phase or the group stage? It's one of those looking at it. Which strength or weakness plays out more for NIP?
From watching NIP over the years,
they warm into a tournament.
I've watched a lot of NIP. It's not necessarily about best of 1 or best of 3 for them. NIP historically are very good at hitting form at the right time. They'll struggle through, and then they'll hit form when it really counts and all of a sudden look unbeatable in the last 3 games. You know, it's all well and good, let's be honest, it's the flip reverse of what we saw from BDS in Sweden. So BDS came out in the group stage just looking fantastic, winning games left, right and centre. First 2 days they looked unbeatable and it just sort of petered out and they didn't do anything really in the knockout phases. And it is sometimes just about finding that form at the right time, and NIP do historically seem to be a team that are very good at managing that within tournaments. But one way or another, it would be a surprise result here to have SANDBOX. I don't think there will be too many. Dev may have predicted SANDBOX because he loves to predict it.
There was a few. I think Milos did as well.
But it's not going to be many that have sort of stood behind the social vote that we had. If you want to get involved in the social votes, please do. It gives us a good indication of the leaning of the fans as well. 65% were in favour of NIP coming into this one. So, you know, we know that SANDBOX can do it. Question is, will they?
I guess the thing is, don't forget as well, the APAC fans are awake this late in the day for them, early in the morning for us. LATAM probably still snoozing at this point. I wouldn't blame them either as well. It'd be silly o'clock in the morning for most to be awake. But for those of you that have got up early to watch NIP start off their tournament, I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and hopefully for you it comes out strong. But for the APAC fans, we all know what they're after. We've had a bit of a rush coming in here. Has this been smashed through? Nova, the support, finds 2 kills and is planting. Muzi finds 1, Pino another. They've had to stop the plant attempt from coming through here to turn around and point guns in the right direction. They're looking for Pino. He's sat inside the admin office. A great shot from Muzi once again. Someone stop this man. He is nuclear. But a nade comes through from Static. A 2 versus 1. Entry and support against the main man on NIP in this map. Can he win it out for the boys?
Muzi is on the hunt at the minute. He's just moving through into open area. I don't think he knows exactly where the man is, but he knows there's somebody in there with him. Out goes the Nitro. It finds the kill desk.
Oh, these two in a 1v1.
It's Muzi versus Static. Static has the advantage based on hit points. There's still 1 minute 40 left to go, Des. There's an absolute age here. Muzi's going to rotate himself underneath. Possibly gets picked up on a drone there. He's moving around. He's moving very quickly. He must be reasonably confident of the location of Static. He doesn't want to get caught in that sprint animation now. Static's going to take the opportunity to get the diffuser down. I think Muzi hears it, and as the challenge comes forward, Static... Muzi misses his shot! Uncharacteristically for him so far! He sprays him down. He takes some hit points. It's now 50 health left nearly for Static. He's him.
He saw the head!
Muzi!
Oh, no! What is that? How is he doing that?
Muzi has had 2 clear opportunities to shut the man down there. You can see it on his face, Des. He knows that round should have been NIP's. If this game goes to SANDBOX, that is the moment you're going to look back at. Static, I'm sorry to say this, he didn't win that fight. Muzi lost it.
He's a dead man walking. He won the 3rd one. But if that was rock, paper, scissors...
You shouldn't be getting to the 3rd one.
No!
Des, he had a full view of the side of Static. He had a clear view of the side of him.
That's the Roni as well, having such a small clip to play. I'm pretty sure she's using the Roni. Such a small clip to play behind that he had no choice but to take that first fight, veer away to the left, get the reload in, and then come back for a second bash. Iana's white hair has just saved Static's life there. If that was any other operator with a black helmet on, he pulls the trigger there and gets the kill. Unbelievable. Shouldn't me and you were just like...
It shouldn't... I'm sorry, Muzi, I am. It shouldn't have been there, though. He saw the side of... You know, it wasn't seeing 2 pixels of a head. He had the entire side to go at. We all miss our shots. It happens. I'm not piling on Muzi. He's going to wake up sweating thinking about that one, I'm sure, especially if this map doesn't go their way. But...
It wasn't even a pixel shot, that's the thing. He was in full view.
That's what I mean. It was
not
like
looking
aiming at a barn
him.
door. It was like...
You can't miss.
You really can't miss that. But 5 versus 4, SANDBOX Gaming, they have managed somehow to muscle round 9 away from NIP, and they've got themselves the advantage, Des. They are winning here on the final map of our best of 3. 2 more rounds, SANDBOX. 2 more rounds.
He's done 3 in a row. What's 2 more on the attacking side of back? That's all it's going to come down to. But let's see how it shapes up. Once again, that Castle is stepping in for NIP. Clearly very big fans of it, has used it in most rounds. This has happened twice now. It wasn't wasn't Muzi who got caught out last time. I'm pretty sure it was Psycho, but Envious came in through that same window twice and killed a player in the same position twice.
Honestly, NIP looked shook the last couple of rounds. It just looks like things are getting away from them. They're trying to hold down open area again. They're losing men to begin with. Envy's just opening up the top floor now. He's looking to get those angles. The nades are going to start raining in. Pino needs to be careful. Backs away. Manages to survive. Psycho's taken a little chip of damage along the way as well. SANDBOX have got total top floor control, and honestly, I feel like they've got control of Bank. I feel like they've got control of this best of three right now, Des.
Mezalon and the keys to the vault at this point. They've found another kill in the round. Charlotte up on square, catches Pino trying to work his way up on square stairs. Now the drone work can begin. You can pause out here. We're not even halfway into the round, or we're just about to be, but you still got so much time to play with. And again, you know that you just had a fight against a guy on these stairs. Yes, he died to Charles from behind, but he saw Nova at the top, and Psycho runs into it. The communication is clearly breaking down for NIP, as is the game and the hope of winning this best of three.
Julio just looking to hold on to that double door for the time being, but the pressure is just constant from SANDBOX here. The drones are going in. They're finding his location. They're giving that information back to the team. Kamikaze, he's coming here on the blue stairs. Slank, it was something that SANDBOX managed to use previously, but Shiles somehow gets a kill onto Julio. I don't know why he aggresses there when Kamikaze is coming on the flank. He just tries to take a bit of attention, but he didn't need to show himself to Shiles. And that's going to be another round for SANDBOX, and they've got the opportunity, Des. They've got map point, match point, series point. It's everything right now.
This has been a total turn of the tape for NIP, where their attacks have been good. Their defenses is where they have fell apart. We first saw it on Kafe. We're seeing it again here. SANDBOX are one round away from bringing down the defending world champions. We have said about this whole defending world champion thing so many times over. It just goes to show nothing is guaranteed.
The thing is, I've spoken about quality within Siege, and, you know, we often talk about, or we get asked a lot about, you know, will there be another dynasty? You know, will it be this sort of... And honestly, I think there could be, but I think it looks different to what we expect. We come from days where G2 won everything when they were at their peak. That does not exist anymore. For me, I've said being consistently the best team in the world at the minute probably looks like winning 2 of the big events over the year. If you win the Invitational and a Major, that, with the level of quality that we now see in these teams that you're being fielded up against, that for me is being dominant.
The only real dynasty that exists these days is the LATAM one, though. It's different.
Yeah, if you look towards a region over the last year, they have, you know, definitely dominated.
Yeah, we had NIP, we had Team One, we had FaZe. Many were coining NIP to come in and win this one again. Imagine if Fury upend things and win this as well. It would just be a total LATAM stomp around the world, all over and over. Though, there's still a lot more tournament to play. Let's see how things go. We're looking at least for a small attack into the top floor here. It's not where the site is, but there is a mirror on this top floor. I spoke already. Envy Taylor, now the third time, is at this window, waiting for someone to run across. No one has moved yet, but I do not want to see another NIP player getting caught out from that angle.
The thing is now, SANDBOX's tails are up. They're excited. They can smell that blood in the water as they're ready to go. You can just feel it as they're pushing in, getting aggressive, holding the angles, trying to find those openers. Like you say, NIP, they cannot give it away. They have to be finding themselves a man advantage to begin with. Psycho looking to see if he can find one out of the elevator. He can't. He's going to drop away and get himself back towards site. Muzi's playing in the open area again, which he had some success from last time, picking up a double kill. He's got Pino there for support for the time being.
Last time round, they actually had the wall going in from top of mid-main stairs up in towards front desk. That was opened up, so they had support for anyone trying to push up downstairs. Here, of course, with the site being downstairs, you're not expecting someone to come into garage, work the way up main stairs and hit Muzi from behind. He doesn't need that cover, so they can play a little bit more aggressively elsewhere in the map, which is arguably why you're seeing that mirror, or did see it, up on the top floor, because Muzi isn't worried about his backside. He's just focused on what's going on in front of him, out towards the east. Static, though, the hero of the map, arguably the day play so far for the side of SANDBOX. He's smelling blood. He knows Kamikaze's lurking. He's even going to have a drone in front of his face as well. A little bit of a nervous flex coming in from Kamikaze as he pulls the trigger on that first shot. Grenade singing in. Going to go for the swing and dies out. What an entry play again from Static. Doing it basically all by himself.
Absolutely beautiful from Static there. Dealt with the utility with the Gon 6. Burned a Wamai Magnet as well with a nade. And then bounces it off. What a great understanding of exactly what was ahead of him.
The article!
Throwing it away, Psycho. He goes into the bottom of blue and gets shut down by Nova. And that now leaves us in a 5 versus 3. Nova can get the wall open and start thinking about getting a plant down.
That Gemini did enough to make him nervous. He didn't go for the man. He didn't go for the clone. It's a 5 versus 2. Julio finds one back, but in comes the plant. Surely a C4 comes singing through here. No, interrupted by the Yokais. 2 versus 4. Harper coming in on the backside, finds one. They've closed it out. SANDBOX have beaten the defending world champions in the opening game of the Six Invitational.
Well, for anybody who thought that SANDBOX might be one of our weaker teams here in Sweden, you better take another look because they've just taken down